It's got a tuxedo in it.
No, it's all in there. Yeah, it's one set, it's a bunch of stuff on the race and I. Cody.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. I'd like to bring the Shelby County Board meeting to order. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer, given by prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, bless all our endeavors, especially tonight's meeting. Guide us in our discussions. Enlighten our minds in every decision that we make. Give us your grace that we may effectively do our parts as public servants. Bless our plans, programs, and projects so that we may achieve our objectives for your greater glory. We pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put the interest of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Clark Hanley.
Present.
Mark Bennett.
Here.
Teresa Bang. Here. Cody Brand.
Here.
Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole. Here. Charles Davis. Julie Edwards. Here. Mark Fernhaber. Here. Clay Hardy.
Here.
Annette Martin. Here. Tad Mayhall.
Here.
Keith McCormick.
Here.
Tim Morse.
Here.
Lori Nelson. Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross. Mitchell Sheff. Don Tate.
Here.
Brett Wallace. Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is discussion and vote on approval of the minutes from the October 12th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Martin makes the motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Lori seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Discussion on the minutes. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is Economic Development Shelby County request for ARPA funds from Shelby County to assist in a solution for a shortage of childcare. Brenda Elder is here, and I would like to extend the floor to Brenda.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to apologize because I don't get to these board meetings very often. I'm the chairman of the board at my church, so it happens to be the same night, so I don't get here much. But it's in good hands, so we'll go on from here. And mostly what I'm doing tonight is giving you information, but I would like a little consideration maybe for some other things in the future. Okay, so most of you know me. I'm Brenda Elder, Director of Shelby County Economic Development. My office is at 1501 West Main. It's on the north side of the Shelby County State Bank building on the West Branch. Today I'm here to talk about the lack of child care in Shelby County and the challenges it poses in the lives of our residents, including parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. We are a county of 21,160 according to the U.S. Census 2021. We have a total that is our population, but we have a population of 5.5% that are children under the age of 5. So there are around 1,163 children with 280 slots designated for publicly funded preschool only. 24 slots are designated for infants and toddlers. We have a lot of people that need child care in this county, not just in Shelbyville. Unless parents have a family member or another reliable person to watch their children, they cannot work full-time and sometimes not even part-time. When it costs $200 to $300 per week per child, it sometimes does not pay for them to work. That is just for one child, and there are few cost breaks for more than one child in a family. Also affected are the employers in our county. Factories, stores, restaurants, and other places of business have problems hiring reliable workers when parents must worry about who will be watching their children, especially while they are earning a living. Many times they must leave their jobs, employees, when their children get out early for school or when school is not in session for scheduled school days off. If the parents are unable to find someone to take care of their children on those days, they must leave their employers with at least one less person to work that day. Having one backup child care provider might not even be enough. Sometimes child care providers are not available for emergency situations that come up, and they must find another person to take care of their children. I've been working with a group of concerned business people, city government officials, representatives of the major factories in Shelbyville, representatives of the Shelby County State Bank, Shelby County Community Services Enterprises, SSI, HSH's Good Shepherd, and current licensed in-home daycare providers and concerned citizens since March of this year. We are all concerned about this problem and hope to find a way to alleviate the challenges that we face. My purpose this evening is to let you know that we would like at least one representative of the Shelby County Board to attend our meetings, and Julie has actually attended a few of those. We usually meet the fourth Monday of each month at noon. If you get me your contact information, I'll be glad to send you an invitation. That person could then report our progress to the Shelby County Board. We would also like to be able to count on your support when we write grants for available funding. A lot of times collaboration grants require that we collaborate with boards such as yourself. We are aware that there are ARPA funds granted to the board that are earmarked for new windows on the courthouse. We would like to be considered should any of those funds become available after the windows are installed. Also, if any of the board has any recommendations about how we might secure the funding for a new facility to be built in Shelbyville, we would like to hear them. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any recommendations you have. We will be working hard to find safe, affordable, educational childcare options for not only Shelbyville, but for Shelby County. And the way that I feel like this helps Shelby County, and not just Shelbyville, is that we have a lot of factories that employ people from outside of our community. They come from Cowden and Findlay and Windsor and all of these places. So this would not be a Shelbyville thing just in its entirety. I mean, it will include anybody that would like to come to these child care facilities and be served. And we are trying to find ways of getting funding. Right now, we have submitted a grant to Birth to 5, and we've asked for $107,000 just in planning. And we should hear from them by December 1st. So we'll know a little bit more from that. But I just want you to know more than anything what we are doing, and that, you know, we will need some help in the future trying to get things done, and we hope that you will support us in that.
Does any board members like to ask any questions or make any comments?
For normal Monday meetings, you said they're at noon, but typically how long do they last and where are they held?
Well, we usually hold them at Monocle's in the basement. They usually last an hour, hour and a half sometimes. We have had a lot of meetings that have had speakers from other child care facilities, Birth to 5, a lot of governmental agencies that are helping us along.
Thank you.
Are you talking about an initial outlay to purchase a building, or are you talking about continually paying salaries and utilities?
Yeah, sure. What we want to do is build a building, if that is the kind of funding that we get, because there are a couple buildings that we looked at here in Shelbyville, which might, be good for a few people, but we would actually like to create 100 slots for children in this area. There's regulations from DCFS that requires a certain amount of footage per class, and children have to have a certain amount of teachers to be with them. We don't want to oversee this. We want to find somebody that will work as a director and help us to hire people that will take it over once it's done. We are just trying to kind of get the groundwork ready so that they can move in and get this taken over. And we haven't made all of our decisions yet, and we will have to talk to legal counsel about that. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, at this time, but we are working toward that.
Will the father of the child be contacted and given the opportunity to care for the children?
Well, that is something that we will have to decide at some point. I mean, like I said,
Seems like a no-brainer to me.
well, I would think so, but I'm only talking as a person that's leading this right now. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made where we all contribute. So I don't want to tell you something now that might be not true later, but I really don't see a problem with that myself.
Sure. Well, if the father wants to be with the child, I say that the child should be with the father instead of a daycare center.
Well, I think that's a family matter, really. I
And
mean,
that's not
No, if the mother discards the father, I think that, maybe the board doesn't agree with me, but I think that before the child goes to a daycare center, the father should be given the opportunity to care for the child.
I think you're probably, I mean,
What?
it's,
So this is a matter of opening a facility that would be open to whoever's coming to the community, whether it's the father or the mother, to find.
But, you know, maybe the father's mother would be willing to do it, or the father's father. I just think far too often we push that part of the family out of the child's life, and before we subsidize a daycare center that actually enables that to continue, we should reach out to the father and see if anybody in the father's family would be willing to. The child would be better off with the father or the paternal grandmother or the paternal grandfather than they would in a daycare center.
Well,
Okay, Cody.
Now, this just isn't for single parents or anything, correct?
No,
This
it's-
is to everybody.
yes, it's for everybody, and we're not dictating, who can go there and who doesn't go there. We're just trying to provide much-needed care for those people that want to work. We're not going to get into that kind of discussion until much, much later down the road.
That was actually my question, is how far along in the process are you? And is there a start date frame or anything like that?
Well, if we get this grant money after December 1st, then we will start thinking really about plans to look at the sites, have them inspected, do all the groundwork that needs to be done. That's what we're asking for as far as grant money goes. And then if that goes well, they have told us if we receive the Birth to 5 grant, then we would be eligible to go into the second grant, which would actually help us with other things.
Okay.
Hold on, Martha. Tad, did you have something?
No, I was just going to help clarify the scope of this conversation is not to determine whose parents taking what to where. We're just here to talk about a facility that would be available, not dictate who goes.
If you contact the father, give him the opportunity to watch the kids, you'll lose a lot of the so-called demand for child care. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That would be settled in court.
The father gets separated in court because the other parent wants a divorce. It's not because the father is a bad father.
Martha?
About a mother.
Is this, and it's a 0 to 5 grant, but does that mean the facility will only be for 0 to 5-year-olds, or is it going to go beyond age of 5?
Yeah, I believe it'll go beyond that, probably up to maybe first grade or something. Like I say, we haven't made all those details ready yet, but we are working with the First Christian Church. They're trying to have a daycare camp. We're working with in-home licensed people now that are taking care of children. They all say that, they have a waiting list of people that want to come. And there are actually people on waiting lists in all of Illinois and nationally. So this is not just a problem for Shelby County. It's a national problem. Yeah.
So one more follow-up question. For some of the larger employers that you mentioned, IHI, SSI, Graphic Paper, et cetera, who, some of them, I know Graphic Paper has a hard time getting enough employees. Have they made any comments about giving a contribution to this which might allow them to hire some of the people that they need because those folks would have an option for daycare?
That is what we're working with them for. Now, they don't want to commit to anything until they know what their buy-in cost will be. And that's just pretty natural, I think. I'm thinking, and this is just very preliminary, but I think it's going to cost around $1 million to build this. I'm not asking the board for this amount of money. I'm just asking for your consideration should we come up a little short and we need some funds and you have ARPA funds that are available. I don't know if that will even be available. But, I just want you to know that we are doing something. We're trying to do it for the county. And we hope that we can have at least your support for us to go forward with this.
Brenda, I'm just going to add, I think I sent out in the email that Moultrie County used some of their ARPA funds. They didn't establish a daycare. They provided it to the people that were already doing daycare, correct?
Yeah, they had a daycare person that was already owned a daycare facility, And they told her that, you know, they would provide her with a bigger place if she would run it. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do here. You know, that's easier said than done, but we will work with colleges and different places. Also, EIU has been very resourceful to us because they try to get free education to people that want to go to school to become daycare certified. So, you know, we've got a few things that we're talking about, but, you know, that's way down the road.
Wasn't Moultrie County, weren't they able to, didn't they say that they added 100 daycare spots in Moultrie County
I believe that's right.
with this program?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you hope in the end to have satellites available to the smaller communities as well?
Well, that might be a possibility. We are trying to work with our mayors and people from these other communities, and we will take anything into consideration. The only thing is, and that means another facility would have to be built or, you know, a place provided, and then we would have to go through, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, nothing's out of the question right now. If we can help in any way, we will. Yes.
Would you please send out your contact information to the board members?
Yes.
And then what towns or municipalities you reached out to, like what mayors you reached out to? That way if there's a municipality or a district that has not been contacted, maybe those connections can be made.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime we have an EDC meeting, it includes the mayors of the different communities, and as long as they come, then we can get the information to them. If they don't come to the meetings, then they may not know about it, but everybody's welcome.
So I'd like to make a comment in closing. So if you have something, raise your hand. But kind of to Tim's point, and I don't know if this is a correct terminology out the gates here, but what if we looked at a more like a program manager? Kind of like last night we had a meeting. Yeah, last night there was a meeting out at the visitor center where they didn't fund it. What they did was they facilitated the knowledge and the path in which already existing daycares could expand, and possibly it would open up a venue to where there are people that are interested in doing more in-home daycare. They do that on their own, but we would more or less have a facilitator, which could be somebody through economic development or SCCS or something of the nature, that would help them get started, get rolling, know what it's going to take to be certified, inspected, and so rather than them being on their own and saying, I'm not going to do it because I have to have all these criteria met. But if we have somebody local that can help them along, that, you know, that might be more broader scope, and we could, you know, that person could then travel to Windsor, Findlay, Moequa, you know, all the way around the county, and it would benefit all the county. Anyway, that was just an idea to.
Yeah, we're willing to work with anybody. I mean, from day one, I've said anybody that would like to come to our meetings are very welcome to come. And what we would like to do is facilitate, you know, by having an area that they can just go into and work. A lot of people don't like to go through the DCFS regulations. We will do that for them. People don't like to go out and find people to work. Well, we might be able to find one person that can do that. We're working with daycare people that have had daycares for several years. We have actually hired a consultant that had 3 daycares in Decatur. And she knows the area pretty well, and she's helping us to get through all the regulations and things that we need to do. But yeah, we see ourselves more as facilitators than actually, we want to provide a place so that they can take it over.
Any other questions, comments for Brenda while we have her here? All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. We'll move on to Chris Smith, which is our CICCRM Area Senior VP with Gallagher. The presentation and discussion regarding CERNA, which is our insurance agency, if you will, the Counties of Illinois Risk Management Agency. And the discussion will be about property and casualty insurance pricing and cyber liability coverage with Cowbell for 12/1/23 through 12/1/24. Discussion regarding the services available to the county through CERMA. So, with that, Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Chris Smith with Gallagher. I want to talk a little bit about, since we have some new board members, I think, since I've met with the group, about the Counties of Illinois Risk Management Agency, what it is, and why it's structured the way that it is. I think that's important to understand. It's 27 counties, of which Shelby County is a member, and you guys are member owners of this agency. And so you have gone together as 27 counties to buy insurance as a much larger organization. So Gallagher helps facilitate that. We help buy the insurance, we help administer the program. And with that, you get higher limits of coverage on the liability side. You get more robust commercial property coverage than you would buy if you were just buying it yourself. You also take on more risk than you could possibly take on yourself as an individual county. And so rather than taking a traditional $5,000, let's say, commercial property deductible, you take $500,000, as a group. And then you pay into a fund, and that fund is administered by a third-party administrator to manage those smaller claims, the claims within that fund. And so each year, each county makes a contribution into that fund that should align closely with what your fund claims have been, so to speak, okay? That fund is managed and audited each year by an independent auditor. You guys are invited actually to 4 meetings a year. It's quarterly for all the members. I know Martha's attended some meetings. I know Jessica has been to a couple of meetings in the past. You actually sit in there and vote on claim payments. So if it's your pool dollars that are making claim payments, you actually vote on whether those claims should be paid based on the facts of the case, so to speak. So I wanted to explain that a little bit because as you look at some of the numbers that hopefully are in your board packet, there should be 4 documents that were included in your board packet. I don't know if everybody's got a copy. Yeah. But there's one page that has your costs from last year to this year, which is a summary. And it looks like this. So I don't know if you guys have a copy of it. But last year, your total contribution, your total insurance costs, all fees included, was $185,000 and some change. This year, that number is $268,000. It's one of the reasons I wanted to come out and kind of explain why that number is higher than it was last year. I think it's important. A couple of the reasons is because your exposures have gone up. Okay, so property values have gone up significantly over last year to the tune of 20%. So total property values for Shelby County last year was $26.8 million, and this year $33.3 million were reported. If it's your $33 million of property versus $26 million, you're going to pay more for your insurance. And so you have to take that into account as you look at rates. Part of that is probably just changes within Shelby County. Part of that, hopefully, is probably just trying to allow for inflation. If anyone's put a deck on their home or redid their kitchen in the past 3 years, they know what's happened to material costs and labor. The gross operating expenditures are up from $5.8 million to $7.2 million. I think Martha had told me there was a reason for kind of that big change for the year, but that is up a little bit. And then payroll was up about $500,000 over last year, 12%. So as those things go up, your insurance rates are going to go up. If you insure your house for $1 million versus $500,000, you're going to pay more for it. It's pretty simple math on that side of things. One of the biggest changes in terms of cost, so of that difference in cost, $55,000 of the cost this year is an increase in the loss fund contribution that all the counties pay into. If you look at, there's a page that looks like this. I don't know if you have it. This goes over historical losses and historical contributions since Shelby County joined CERMA in 2018. And so you can kind of look year over year, what have we paid into this fund contribution, how has it changed over time. Shelby County's had kind of a rough 6 years, 5 years in terms of claims. not the frequency of claims, there's been two very large claims, one that exceeded $500,000 and one that's reserved at a very high number. I won't get into specifics in this forum as far as claim details, but one of the reasons it went up so much this year is because there's a claim that actually occurred during the
2019, 2020.
yeah, 2019 to 2020. So anybody that's involved in the legal system at all knows that it takes a long time for claims to be settled, right? It's very frequent that I will get in my inbox, in my email, a lawsuit for a client that's just a couple of days before the statute of limitations is up, depending on where that's at. It's just part of, the plaintiff wants to build a case, et cetera, et cetera. Then the lawsuit's filed, and there's a discovery process. There's all these things that kind of happen. And so I'm telling you that because the losses for 2019 to 2020 show $907,000. Up until January of this year, that number was $725,000 less than it was when they raised the reserve after discovery on a claim that was reported actually between 2019 and 2020. So even though that number is back in 2019-20, it actually was, the reserve was adjusted in January of this year. So we just missed it last year, and we're kind of paying the piper this year on the loss fund contribution. You will know on the contribution this year that it's roughly about 1.4% of the total contribution. So that kind of puts in perspective that $135,000 is still a very small amount as it compares to what all the 27 counties are paying into that loss fund. So, and I also wanted to say too that the total pricing this year is $268,000. The county actually went out to bid last year. You did your public meeting, you went out and sought proposals from alternate providers. And last year, that number, the next lowest number to our proposal last year was $300,000. So even though we have that large claim, even though loss fund contributions up $55,000, it's still less than what you would have paid last year with another provider. So it's still very competitive. Does anybody have questions on CIRMA, on that portion of the conversation?
I was just going to add a couple things, Chris, because I was at the meeting last month, the quarterly meeting, and I sit on that board as a Shelby County board member. I sit on that board too, so have a vote at the table. 3 new counties were voted in. Actually, I shouldn't say counties because now CIRMA is allowing municipalities to come in, but the municipalities do not have a seat at the table. They don't have a vote. So, but we approved 3, and then there was 1 approved by email, so 4. So counties want to come into CIRMA, but CIRMA does a very good job vetting them. So if a county that has really, really poor loss history that's going to kind of drag down the CIRMA program and the profitability of it, just because they ask doesn't necessarily mean they get in. CIRMA also has the right every 3rd year to, and we use the term escort us out of the program if we're not performing well, if we're dragging the program down. So it's important for us to do what we can do to mitigate our losses and keep them under control as much as we possibly can. What was the last one?
Well, good segue though.
Yeah, so they're growing. Oh, I'm sorry, last one I was going to say was they mentioned at the meeting last month that there was a county that chose to leave CIRMA, had been in CIRMA for a number of years. I think one of the original 4 founding, if you will, counties chose to leave. They were on the cusp of getting, I'm going to call it a dividend reimbursement. So when the CIRMA program performs well, and all the losses in a particular year are closed out, they're done, there's no more, tail, open reserves or any of that. In that year, if CIRMA made money, then they were funded based on a percentage of, your county's contributions. Shelby County joined this in 2018, so we're getting really close to, a year where if it closes out well. But that particular county that left, their insurance premiums doubled, if not more, and they approached CIRMA about trying to get back in 12/1 or 1/1 of this year. 12/1, it's a 12/1 program. 12/1, and they've got to wait one more year before they can get in, and they're paying the price.
I mean, we as consumers, we buy house insurance, we buy car insurance, and we might have a deer hit, we may have something small happen, but our house probably isn't going to burn down, right? But some people do, and so you have to account for that. And so, as you look at dollars in, dollars out with commercial insurance in the world that other than insurance companies are in business to make money. If they pay more in claims than you're paying in premium, you're not going to be their client for very long. And as you look at Shelby County, the average incurred loss per year since 2018 is $341,000. So that's including loss fund contribution payment and then any insurance carrier payment. That is kind of the reinsurance above that fund. And so, any one of my underwriters in a traditional insurance market is never going to price your insurance for less than $341,000. It's not going to do that. It wouldn't make any sense. So that is the benefit of CIRMA in my mind is that we're kind of weathering the storm from a cost perspective. Because this storm in a traditional insurance world would be very ugly in terms of premium costs, there's no question. I also want to talk just briefly about cyber. It is actually not, we help facilitate the county buying the coverage, but it's not really part of the CIRMA program. We do leverage those 27 counties when we go out to buy cyber coverage on your behalf. Cyber insurance, a quick Google search will tell you what's happening in the cyber insurance world. It's crazy. It has been for the last 5 years or so. And the challenge is that buying coverage is exceedingly harder than it was 3 years ago. It just is. The underwriting side of cyber has become incredibly sophisticated. I sit out on risk control calls for cyber insurance weekly, and I'm lost 5 minutes in. I don't consider myself tech savvy, but I mean, it's just incredibly sophisticated. So the expectation from cyber insurers is that you are doing everything you can to protect your data, using all modern means to do so. That's easier said than done, So with that in mind, we're able to buy insurance through, and it's actually, the name of the company is kind of funny, it's called Cowbell. It's kind of a weird name, but I've actually insured multiple claims with them and had sizable claims with them, so you're in good hands with world-class claim service. There is more robust coverage options available, even with Cowbell, than what's there. And I think that that's something we should explore this year. But it's going to require more security, to get that than the county may have now. And so we can look at it, we can price it, we can, look at higher limits, but it doesn't necessarily mean we can buy it. So I just want to keep that in mind as we look at options this year. But we found this year, you're all set. It's great coverage, it's a great company. The premium was up a tick. It was $7,300 last year, and it's $8,300 this year. I'd love to tell you that it's reasonable, one of the numbers that I see every year. $1 million worth of cyber coverage. I've had claims well over $1 million for some of my clients. I think for the size and scope of Shelby County, I think it's great coverage. We can look at higher limits as well this year, potentially. Speaking of services, though, and what I was saying before, there are a lot of services with CIRMA that you're paying for, that you can use, that you're not using currently. And that's one of the things I think the legislative committee this year really wants to focus on, especially as, even though I think what the county's paying for the insurance is incredibly reasonable, based on the numbers every day, we certainly want it to be less, right? And so, as we look at losses and how those are driving our overall costs, how do we control those losses? And so CIRMA is contracted with a risk control firm, so they will work and they'll do safety meetings. Any department that wants to do a safety meeting, they want flyers to hand out to employees, any kind of online training, anything like that they want, they can deliver, and if they can't, we can't shoot down there. Okay, so we've got those services available from a safety worker perspective. We actually have a cyber portal at Gallagher that you can have access to, that's just, your IT person can go out, there's all kinds of templates about policies and procedures that they should be following to try to keep data secure. We have an HR consultant, which I know some of you have used in the past, an HR consulting firm. They were blessing at first. They're going to fix things. It might not be a whole lot of fun, but they are really good at what they do, and I think it's an incredibly important risk management practice for the county to follow. So there's all these different things that we can do. There's no cost included. One big thing that Sherman did this year was they contracted with an organization called CBiz that is going to come out and appraise every structure for the 27 member counties that's insured for over $1 million for no cost to members. And so the building we're sitting in, that we've had to guess on in terms of value for a long time, is actually going to be appraised this year for no cost to the county. And then when they come back with that appraisal number, we'll adjust the insurance numbers accordingly to make sure it's properly insured. So that's another example. And I think there's 4 structures that are over $1 million in Shelby County that they're going to be appraising. And they actually will even do some benchmarking on contents too for the county. So they're not going to go through and audit every table and chair, every file cabinet, but they're going to say, hey, based on this many square feet for a courthouse in a rural Illinois county, this is what we're seeking, and help you with that value as well.
Those appraisals are very important because our property coverage has what's called a margin clause in it, and it's a 15% margin clause. So to keep the math simple, if we insure a building at $1 million and it goes to the ground and the replacement cost is $1,300,000, we're kind of screwed, glued, and tattooed because we're going to be capped out at 15% above that $1 million. So having CBiz come in and help us with appraisals to make sure that we do have adequate limits is huge, because if we went outside the program and hired somebody to do it, it's not a cheap endeavor. So that is a very significant service that we'll be getting this year.
Yeah. And I would say out of 27 counties, there's probably 25 of them that have a building very similar to the one that we're sitting in. And so it's really important, I think, for these old historical buildings to try to get it right. And there's no software that I have available to me. I mean, I can do a cost estimator on a 1 million square foot manufacturing facility, but I can't do it on a 120-year-old, 40,000 square foot courthouse. I just can't do it. So it's going to be awesome. I'm glad they're doing it.
I think Chris mentioned the loss control services and HR services. I'm going to ask Chris to get me the information on the contacts and the websites or places that department heads can go, because we really need to take a look at our losses that we've had as a county since we joined CIRMA, and make sure we're doing as a county, as a whole, collectively, what we can to mitigate our exposures and reduce our losses, because we want the $135,000 loss fund back down. 80 is a whole lot better than 135, and we can get there. But we don't want to be in a position where CIRMA escorts us out of the program because our losses have gotten poor. Because as an underwriter, and Chris mentioned, if he had to take this out to the standard market, it'd be no less than $341,000. It's going to be $341,000 plus a markup for expenses, which can run anywhere from 40 to 45%. Most companies would use as their. So,
Probably about 40 on average.
losing the CIRMA program would be a huge detriment to the county. So hopefully we can all work together to do what we can do to utilize the services that we have at our disposal.
Now, you have loss mitigation, like trainings and stuff, like safety training and things like that.
And a human that does it too, a person that would
Right.
come in and work with the department.
Do you, the counties that do that, has their numbers go down with claims, or has that helped at all?
I will tell you, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I will tell you that any organization that I've ever insured that's proactive with loss control has improved their losses, no question. Because it's really a culture thing too, right? So if a department head buys into the fact that they want to do something better, a process, whether they're manufacturing a widget on a line or whether they're, the sheriff's department, if they want to be better at what they do and they take the time to do it and they send that message to their employees and they're bringing in people to help, it's a culture thing, and people buy into it.
And that is included in our membership, right? That's no extra cost to have someone come.
That's correct.
So two things. So you mentioned HR. We've had employees of the courthouse stand up and address HR issues. So how do they proactively contact those services? How would we interact with the HR services?
Yeah, we give you the resource, and then you got, what we don't do, and what they won't do is say, you need to do this, right? They're just there to be a resource for your organization. So, but what I would recommend is, and I can't remember how the unions are structured and all the different, agreements that you might have and how that impacts, your employee manual and all that kind of thing. But either at an enterprise level, have somebody reach out and say, what resources do we have, and then give that out to the different units. Or if it is at this level, then at least they'll know what those are, and then you can kind of pick and choose a la carte what services you want, right? I mean, I will tell you, I think Martha made a great point. When you just, give somebody, a menu of things to do, it's overwhelming. I think trying to find potential problems and then addressing those specifically and individually will prove to be a far better course of action.
Part two, because we had a discussion the other day as we were approving payment for the cyber piece. Could you touch on the coverage, specifically like what's covered, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's individuals, what is actually covered and protected in that?
So cyber insurance agreements vary by carrier. Okay, my first cyber insurance policy was for Shelby County Hospital about 20 years ago. It was the first policy that I placed for an organization. And I don't have the actual cowbell policy with me, but I'm going to talk about general terms. There's a first-party insurance agreement, right? So that is for, and that is, quite frankly, some of the largest claims I've seen are for forensics. So what's going to happen is you guys are going to identify that something's happened, we've had a breach, there's been an intrusion of some kind, locking it down, and then a team of people are actually going to come in, that Cowbell's hired to come in and say, here's exactly every file that's been touched. Now, my running joke with my clients is that those people make more than my radiologists. I mean, the bills that I have seen at an hourly rate is unbelievable for what these people, but they're very good at what they do, and it's an important part of the equation. Because then we're going to have to notify those people, and that's part of that first-party insurance agreement. So it's notification costs, forensics, that type of thing. Okay, that's first party. Third party is if this group of people come back and say, hey, somebody used our stuff and bought a credit card or got a credit card and used it, and it's impacted my credit rating. I will tell you my own experience I probably have had 20 cyber claims myself, my own clients in the past 5 years, which is a large number, but I do some healthcare and there are targets. I've had one class action suit filed against my client for a third-party action. So those, even though that's an important coverage to have, that first-party piece is really important because that's when the rubber hits the road and those are immediate expenses for the county you would have to suffer. So, and it's $1 million. So it's $1 million aggregate on the policy. So no matter what way we get at that policy, you're still subject to that $1 million aggregate. There are policies that exist where I can take that first-party coverage and have it be a separate limit. But again, you're getting more underwriting, maybe overkill for Shelby County. I don't know how many records you have on file, but that's kind of what we benchmark things for. Because on that portal that I was telling you about, one of the things we actually have is a breach calculator. So if you take your number of records, the type of organization you are, whether they're PHI, PII, depending on the types of records they are, it will actually spit out, here's what we think it's going to cost you if you have a breach. And so we can actually go through that exercise this year.
So then the other part of that was ransom, right? So
Yeah.
we're held hostage here.
Yeah, and that's it used to be, so basically that calculator I was just telling you about, I used to be able to tell my healthcare clients 5 years ago, here's exactly what a breach is gonna cost us. Aren't we great? This is what we need to have. Now, ransomware has taken that all off the table. You know, I can't sit here and say $1 million enough because you could have a $5 million ransom the next day. You know, that's just the world that we live in, unfortunately. There's a group of people, mostly in another country, that are sitting there, all they're trying to do is penetrate computer systems in the U.S. I've had 2 ransom attacks from my own clients. I was actually engaged for another ransom attack within our branch. And the challenge with ransomware is that it used to be healthcare and the things that you would expect them to go after. Now it's large contractors, it's counties, and basically what they do, just to explain, is they get into your system, they lock it down, and say for $800,000 we'll give you the keys back. And we're not giving you that until you forward $800,000 to this account and wherever. So, and then the other issue too is that sometimes the insurance carrier can't make those payments. If they actually search the account and determine whether it's a country that we're at war with, we're not at peace with, or whatever, and it's one of those countries, they can't even make the payment. So it can be challenging, but yes, ransom is included in that policy.
Any other questions? No other questions of the board? I thank you for your time and appreciate you coming this evening. Amend the minutes to reflect that Sonny arrived at 7:23 as a voting member. Item 6 is discussion and vote to approve annual drug driving prevention month proclamation. I'd like to bring the floor to Heather Wade.
Good evening, Heather, probation. Actually made a mistake with the clerk. I'm not going to present tonight. I'm going to have my probation officer, Ryan Ambrose, present tonight. She is the misdemeanor DUI probation officer. She supervises juveniles, so I believe it's more appropriate for her, and she's prepared it for you tonight. So I apologize for that confusion. That was on me.
Very good, thank you. Ryan?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Ambrose, and I am a probation officer for Shelby County. As you all know, December is right around the corner, and with December being near, that means the holiday season is approaching. Typically, during this time of year is when we see the most accidents occurring that involve driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and I'm standing here tonight to spread awareness for our society's problem with impaired driving. Every year during the holiday season, we place a tree in the courthouse basement in memory of those who have lost their lives in accidents involving impaired driving. In the past, we have appreciated the county board's proclamation to declare December as Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month, and we are asking the county board to continue this tradition for the month of December. Thank you.
I entertain a motion to approve the proclamation. Jeremy makes the motion. I have Lori to make the second. Any discussion on the proclamation? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 7 is same division, discussion and vote to approve resolution to authorize probation officers to carry firearms pursuant to 720 ILCS 5-24-2, Part 12.5, the administrative code, the administrative order 2022-18, and Heather has the floor.
Okay, good evening again. I got a little excited, and I asked to be put on here for this resolution because it's an annual thing where we come to you. The administrative order was signed by the chief judge last year, and it stands, and I believe we sent you all a copy of it. It stands as it is, and the last paragraph says that the officer must obtain written approval annually by the chief judge. So it's specific to the officer, and the resolution stands. So I do not need a new resolution. I talked to Jessica about this later. What I will need, because as of Tuesday, we were finally approved for our policies and procedures that were submitted last year. So it was sent back a couple times. We worked with some other counties, Clay County specifically, And the chief judge had approved our policy, but the administrative office wanted some changes. So those just came back. We are now officially ready to go. We have not been able to proceed until we got that policy back. The only officer who's even in the stage of getting close would be myself. I have already completed a psychological evaluation. It's years ago. I will update it. But, and then I'm working with the MTU, and the sheriff's been helpful to try and get me to a 40-hour training. We're going to start with one at a time. I can't afford to have all of us in a 40-hour training at one time. So we're going to start with me, and when that time comes, I will do it appropriately. I will probably just bring it to the chair. You guys have approved the resolution, so I would assume, and I'm not good with this, I would need his signature, the chief judge, and then we would do that annually. I'm not sure if the entire county board, but I will present him those documents. It just requires the chair, the judge, but again, I don't know how that process works exactly for the board. But so, like I said, I got a little excited. I thought I needed an annual resolution. I do not. I just need an annual approval once I've completed the job, and I will bring it back. I will note that we were approved with our annual plan, so that's how I finally got, I believe. I don't know if you received your copy yet, Mr. Orman?
Don't know.
So our annual plan was approved, which means our funding will go through. The policies were all approved, and the staff was highly staffed. I didn't get near as many hours, did an extremely good job. I believe they both completed at least 50 hours of training last year. We're required to have 20. So they both, Officer Durbin and Officer Ambrose, went out of their way to make sure they are trained and ready. So, but we were approved, and I will come back to whoever I need to once I've completed the 40-hour training.
Okay, thank you. Well, it sounds like the resolution's already been pushed through, so through the board, so it's just a matter of putting it on paper. Okay. Item 8, it's a highway. We have Michael Tappendorf here with us this evening. As you had before, we have several resolutions and things to take care of, so Michael, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Chair. Once again, I'd like to say thanks. I've had a lot of great support from a lot of people in the county and a lot of just everybody within the county and the government and citizens. They've made working here very easy, and but I know I just got a lot of work to do, so I just wanted to start with that. So going into projects, Mowequa Bridge on County Highway 21 is now complete. No more construction to do there. Everything is complete. Prairie Township Herburn three-sided structure. We had a pre-construction conference on that. It's going to start around the May time frame of next spring. So I have several items here on the agenda, so kind of get into some of those, but there's not really too much projects that are probably pushing for right this second, but except for, I think I've discussed it in the past, I'm working on programming for next year. I know that I would like to work on the reconstruction of the Finley Road east and west, County Highway 3. There is a County Highway 5, which is a grant that it's headed north out of Shelbyville, and it is in the progress as well. We're getting options for different methods of construction there. So those are some bigger projects that are in the pipeline that will hopefully be coming. I don't have a time frame on those yet, but I know that they're high priority in our department. We have some good news in my department. I've hired a technician, so I'm getting some good help, and we have and everybody in the department seems very happy. Everybody has been great to work with. I have one of my good employees here, John, and he's been a pleasure to work with for the last couple months, and we're here to talk about something else on the agenda here in a little bit, which is actually an agenda item as well. So with that, would you want me to go through the resolutions, or?
Yes.
Okay. So first off is a resolution to use motor fuel tax funds, $800,000 for maintenance of county roads in 2024. This is our MFT. IDOT allots us a certain amount per month for fuel taxes. So this is setting this money aside for me to designate for oil and shipping throughout the county and just doing general maintenance on the road. So with that, I would ask for, and this is, I should say, it's also a work in progress. It's $800,000. I'm setting that money out. It's not set on how that gets spent. It's just that that's the amount that I would like to spend in the next year, which is roughly coinciding with what we're getting for the next year as well. So with that, I would.
Is there a motion to?
I make a motion.
Tim Brown makes a motion to use 800,000 NFT. I got a second by Heath. During discussion. I do have a question. So this 800,000 is kind of a budgetary number for whenever the bids come in. So basically, if we come in way over this number, you're going to ratchet back the consumption and.
Yeah, so this estimate actually is a little higher than what I'm estimating. So I'm really estimating that the costs are going to be in the $720,000 range. Because we don't know how the costs are going to come in, I've overestimated a little bit to account for some inflations and some other stuff. So it's not that I'm going to spend $800,000, it just allows me to if I need to. If that makes sense.
Is this for county highways, or is this for the roads within the individual township roads?
Good question. This is just for county highways. So the townships are responsible for their own MFT. They have well over this amount to spend on their own programs.
They have their own money, but yet it's administered through your office, isn't it?
Correct. I am assisting them in every way possible to make sure they spend it responsibly. So.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Clark Hanley,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bang,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Bernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Nat Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Mormon,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Chef,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, motion carries. We move on to discussion and vote resolution for our funds and $90,000 to purchase an excavator.
Thank you again. So I can answer any questions, but I mean, giving some details, we have an existing excavator. It is well used and has been a very important piece of our equipment for the department, but it is reaching the end of its life. It has approximately 12,000 hours on it, which if you consider that to be like a vehicle, would be like a car with 600,000 miles on it. It's just, it's well loved. So the new excavator, I would just like to bring up that it would be an investment that the highway would be using to keep costs down and would eventually pay for itself multiple times over in the plans that I would have for it in the future. The old excavator, I feel, could even be a safety issue. We use it to lift heavy pieces of equipment or heavy pieces of construction items. If the pump were to ever go down on it while somebody is around it, it could be detrimental to employees, so safety is a high priority around the department. I want to make sure we're using good equipment that keeps people safe. So I could get into about what we use it for. I don't know if that really is important to everybody, but I just do feel like it would be a good investment, and I could answer any questions.
How soon after if we approve this, are you going to be able to take possession of it?
We would move as quickly as we could. I hope to, if you guys give us approval, as soon as I get the resolution and ARPA funds, we would, I'm sure, get it as soon as we could. I don't have an exact answer there.
I'd just like to point out, for anybody that knows anything about diesel engines, 12,000 hours on a piece of equipment on the original engine without an overhaul is a considerable achievement. I've never done that with a piece of farm equipment, so that's a testament to the workers out there at the highway department. They take care of the equipment. I'm sure they'll take care of this new excavator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael, is this the one that John went to look at
It is, yes.
yesterday or last week?
Yes, it is. And
So he actually saw the piece of,
he has operated and went and looked at it. I'm sure he could answer any questions if you have any, but yeah, I've heard good things about it, so. Yes.
Has this older model of excavator, has it been declared surplus? Or is the highway department exempt from that, depending on your statute?
There is statutes that allow this to be traded in. I'm definitely open to, and I've contacted CAT to see if they would put in a bid or something if we wanted to deem it excess at the next meeting. We could go about it that way. So we could either trade it in, which is acceptable, but from statutes, which actually it could also work to our advantage because they would still, we could trade it in, or I could go through the bidding process, and CAT has already said that they would honor the 20 or their trade-in value for next month as well. So we could bid it to see if another individual within Shelby County would bid more, with the understanding that if they don't, I have a $20,000 on the table bid from CAT. So if that's the way we would go.
Thank you for expounding on that, but my question was, has this excavator already been deemed surplus?
No.
So that it can be traded in?
So I could,
or
no.
can be-
So
So is there, because I did try to find that out, because I know this has come up before in different departments.
Yeah.
The State Property Control Act, I'm not really sure which one deems your department's standards or steps.
Yeah.
Is it required that it's declared surplus first before either bidding it out or trading it in?
So I can, so if I'm going from used to used, within my statutes, road and bridge and other related laws is what I'm bound by in my statutes, the current edition. It allows me to trade in if I would like to. And if I were to go for a new equipment with less than 300 hours and not titled, I have to bid it, and I have to bid my excavator that I'm proposing, and I have to bid my existing one as well. That is the way, my understanding of my statutes. So right now we can go either way within legal limits that I know of, but I'd be happy to wait until December to declare it excess and then go through that bidding process as well.
The surplus question is really...
It's not deemed surplus yet, no.
Okay, but do you know if it's required to be?
It is not required if I want to trade it in.
Okay,
from my
if you
understanding.
are trading it in?
Yes.
Or like for like, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't have a motion here.
No, we opened up.
Right.
There was no motion.
I made a motion.
And
I have a motion by Tim Brown, seconded by Jeremy, to use $90,000 of ARPA funds to purchase an excavator. Any further discussion? Thank you.
So it sounds like that you had a great deal of input on the equipment for the use of your department, which I assume is pretty important to your
Yes, it is.
overall, right? And then you actually, as the department head, took one of your employees that you value their input on that equipment to make sure it was important. So I just want to make sure I understand that you were well included in the conversation.
Absolutely.
And the equipment wasn't forced on you.
It was nothing, no, absolutely nothing was forced. I worked with, it's been a team effort, committee members, board, chairman, and my employees and everybody. It's been a team effort to get to this point. And I have definitely done a lot of homework on this myself. I've reached out to three retailers trying to get different ideas, as well as other locals that are trying to sell excavators. This is by far the absolute best deal that's come along. We've done a lot of homework as a department to do that. Get here.
And again, facilitate the way that we think it should be in cooperation with these projects. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
How many hours on this one?
3,000 to 4,000 hours.
So, budget question. We are still currently in our 3-month time frame of the budget. I do believe we have project funds in that 3-month time frame. Does anybody know different?
You're talking about for ARPA?
Yeah.
We budgeted every dollar of ARPA.
Just continually on through, yeah. So the funds are there, they were budgeted for. So what I'm driving at is it's not an obligation without, or it's not an appropriation without obligation, vice versa. It's not an obligation without appropriation. So, and I do believe the LATCF line will be the same way. So it is budgeted for, it's just based on approval. So, any other questions, comments for the engineer? Hearing none, I've got a motion and a second. We've had discussion, and we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Verhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Chef.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, the next line is very similar, just with LATCF funding at $20,000 for computer and equipment purchases. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. This is just funding sources available, and just to get things within my department a little more up to date and operate more efficiently around our department. We're just proposing to use $20,000 of the LATCF to purchase servers and other computers around, just so we can operate more efficiently. And once again, this would be an investment for our department. I'm sure this, coming from my background, I know that this would be an investment we would well overpay for itself in the future for the county. So keeping our costs down significantly.
This doesn't operate the same as ARPA because the LATCF funds are not in a separate fund. They're actually in the general fund restricted, and I spoke with Michael that would need to be in the general fund highway office, which I believe is 008, under, say, office equipment, but then it qualifies as an LATCF expenditure. There is no separate line item for LATCF, but those funds are in the general fund and are spent out of that on already existing line items. So that would have to, that purchase would have to wait until the new budget is approved. I don't believe you have any in that budget at this point. It can be under, I mean, wherever you purchase your office equipment out of, but it would just need to reflect that. It would show an expenditure out of that line item, but it would reduce the LATCF funds in the general fund.
Okay. I'll definitely work with you to make sure I do it correctly. So.
Well, we're going to approve the budget for viewing tonight. So find out what line item that is so we can make that change before approving the viewing. Because we'll need to approve the budget as proposed with an amendment to that line item to use the LATCF funding. Carol?
How do we know how much money is in the LATCF fund? I keep a spreadsheet. Pardon? I'm keeping a spreadsheet. It's not a separate fund. These are restricted funds in the general fund. But we can't see it anywhere.
Have you asked for it?
No, I looked for it on the.
It's not in there, it's just in the general fund, and we track it through a spreadsheet.
It's in addition, it's just like all the rest of the restricted funds, that they will not show up in the general fund ledger. So it shows up in the general fund ledger, but not as general fund ledger. They're
many different accounts are there like that? That are in the general fund, but you keep a spreadsheet separate to track it? 68?
No, in that,
72?
well, those are separate funds. There's the LATCF, there's the cannabis tax,
That's
there's
the
the
cannabis.
opioid, and there's the MAR. And then, yeah, those are the four right now.
So when we get our reports every month from the treasurer and stuff, could part of that report show those special funds and what's been used out of it and stuff? Is that a possibility?
If you want, all you gotta do is ask.
Okay.
Yep, it's available. Okay, so the $20,000 LATCF funding appears to have a little bit of a hiccup, so I think we just move on.
Okay.
So next is discussion and vote to approve the 50/50 petition with Shelbyville Township Highway Commissioner to replace the box culvert at 800 feet south of the 1,000 north, 2,300 east intersection at an estimated cost of $15,174.
So moved.
Jeremy makes the motion, second. Seconded by Clay. Discussion? Martha?
I just have a quick question. Is the 15,174 the 50%, or that's the number that's gonna be split 50/50, so it ends up at 8750 or something like that?
Correct. It is going to be, that's the total number, so each would pay around 7,500, give or take, somewhere in there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call please.
Clark Hanlon,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bang,
Yes.
Cody Graham,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Verhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Nat Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Mormon,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff, Don Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries. And last is a resolution to use NFT funds to pay for half of the county engineer's salary expenses. Entertain a motion. Martha makes a motion. Is there a second? Tim Brown makes a second. Any discussion?
Is this something new, or is this how we've always done it? For his salary?
This is done typically whenever there's an engineer in house every year. So this actually allots IDOT to pay for half of my salary as well. So this allows them to bring in from a different funding source to pay for half of our salary that is outside of the county entirely. So
Yeah, it's been so long since we've had an engineer. I could remember either.
it is yearly. It is typically yearly.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Is that not roll call, Bobby? I'm just asking because it's money.
To use the funds that we've already established his salary. We're
Okay.
just determining the
I just want to
funding
make sure.
source. So we haven't spent, we're not spending any more money.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, anything else from the engineer? You have the floor.
I would be happy to answer any other questions, but if there's anything the board would ever like me to go over in more detail at these board meetings, just let me know and happily go over that. But I have nothing else to present to you.
I have a comment though. I ran into some of your employees a couple weekends ago and stuff, and sat down and talked to them for a while, and they are much happier employees right now, and I told them that they deserved that, and I was glad things were going well for them.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, comments for the engineer? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 9 is discussion and vote to approve the CERMA 12/1/23 through 11/30/24 insurance pricing, which you all should have seen in your board packets.
Make the motion.
Martha makes the motion to approve the pricing. Is there a second? Mark makes a second. Any discussion? Sorry, if I jumped in there. Right. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll take all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 10 is the discussion and vote to approve cowbell cyber liability 12/1/23 through 11/30/24 insurance pricing. Any motion? Tad makes a motion, Martha seconds it. Any discussion on that?
I think just for display purposes, if somebody's got the bill in here, I know he said it out loud, just so we know what we're paying for. It was $8,000.
$8,396.
So 8,000 what?
$396.
83.96. Motion second, discussion, any other discussion?
That was the premium, Bobby. There may have been some fees, additional fees on top of that. That's the premium dollars. No, sorry, I take that back. The premium dollars was $8,046 with the additional fee, with the fees and whatnot, it's $8,396.
Okay, so
Sorry.
all inclusive is 83.96. So with that said, we will take a roll call on this and we will revert back to number 9 and take a roll call on that one.
Well, actually, this cyber bill is going to be approved when we do the bills. You're just approving the pricing, so we'll approve the expenditure actually. And we haven't gotten a bill yet for the CERMA liability insurance.
Okay.
It'll probably be next month.
Okay, thank you. So we will continue on with the normal aye vote. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 11 is discussion and vote to approve the Toledo health insurance pricing for Jan 1/24 through Dec 31/24. Is there a motion on this?
So moved.
Martha makes the motion. Is there a second? Tad makes the second. Any discussion?
I was going to make a comment on this, just to let everybody know, this pricing actually went down about roughly $3,000 this year. From a health insurance perspective, the county had an excellent year from a claims perspective. So for pricing to be down at all is huge and significant. There's a lot of employers that are looking at 20-30% health insurance cost increases. So this is also another, the health insurance is also part of a cooperative. So again, it's a purchase power of a large group as opposed to us just out trying to purchase it by ourselves. So hats off to the employees. I know they're doing, majority of them, maybe all of them are doing the annual health, risk or health assessments and those kinds of things, and that's helped keep pricing down, and the reduction in claims this year has really helped us out. So thanks to all of them.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is discussion and vote to approve the proposed fiscal year. I'm going to skip over this for a little while. We'll come back to it. So item 13 is discussion and vote to approve the annual state's attorney's appellate prosecutor resolution per 725 LCS 210/1 for $8,000.
So moved.
Jeremy makes the motion. Is there a second? Mark makes the second. Is there any questions or discussions on the matter?
summarize what it is?
No,
Okay.
it's a resolution that's set forth by statute, and that's all I can tell you in a moment.
All right.
Is this something we've done in the past? Okay.
I do believe so.
Okay, just.
This is, now I do remember, Ted.
Okay.
This is the resolution that puts us in the appellate prosecutor's office, more or less as a member, if you will, that if we need the appellate prosecutor's office to help us in the county, we have paid a fee to get there without exchanging money later on. So, off the top of my head, that's the best I can remember.
I believe with others.
Oh, yeah, it's the entire circuit, or the appellate circuit, yeah. So, any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Clark Hanlon,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yeah.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Nat Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, motion carries, thank you. Next is discussion and vote to cause audit to be conducted in the state's attorney's office and request Benford Brown to conduct an audit pursuant to 55 ILCS 5/6-31005 upon recommendation of the legislative committee.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Jeremy makes a motion, I have a second by Heath. Discussion? Is there any discussion?
Yes, question. Would this not already be included in the audit that's taking place for 22, 23?
Go ahead.
The statute that's cited on the agenda item says, in addition to any other audit required by that section. So upon the existence of the vacancy of a department head, we're legally obligated, according to that statute, to conduct an audit separate from any other.
And what is the time frame in that statute that says we should have accomplished this by?
180 days.
A long time ago.
So
So,
can we affect something that's come and gone?
can we affect it?
We're trying to affect something that we missed our requirement on. So how can we do something we've missed our requirement on?
It's still a requirement. We missed the part about it being in 180 days, but that doesn't mean that it's not still a requirement to have the audit done. It doesn't say if you miss it within 180 days, don't worry about it, don't do it.
The old board missed 2 sheriff resignations and a highway department resignation, 2 highway department resignations. And effectively, the county board has put those office positions, the current sheriff and the current highway engineer, at a serious disadvantage, because yes, with their members that are there's members that they have to work with that are inherited, but there's nothing to verify that those numbers are true and accurate. So when they take over, they're working with true and accurate numbers, or at least verified numbers. And that's why the audit, when it is required by audit, or when the audit is required by statute to be separate from the annual audit, is because the annual audit doesn't cover the scope and it doesn't narrow down the scope to that office. It just does random testing in all the offices maybe, or maybe picks an office out and does testing in that. So the reason for the single, very narrow scope audit is because the annual audit does not do a narrow audit on all the offices. So that's why it's separate.
So then to your point, we disadvantaged this office holder by not meeting that same time frame. Okay.
There's been several. But it's a good place to start as the one nearest to us, nearest in time.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
The auditor that's doing the audit, that's not completed yet, Can we have an update on that? And are they going to finish that before they start this?
Yeah, so they are much closer to getting wrapped up. They've had a hard time getting information out of the county because of the decentralized system that we have. They've got to go to multiple different offices to get information. There's been multiple offices that has been almost impossible to get the information out of for them to get their numbers rolling. Our system has not been very cooperative in some aspects, so there's been a lot of problems getting an audit done. So
So do we have a time period that they think they're going to be done with that then?
I don't, yeah, no.
When are we supposed to start the next year's audit?
Anytime. Well, no. Within the next 6 months. You have 180 days past post the close of the fiscal year, which would be at the end of this month.
Okay.
Because the audit for 23 will be from September 1st through December 31st, November 31st of this year. Because we did a 3-month abbreviated budget, which extended the year. That's why we did it that way. So I'm not going to say that's why we did it that way. It was recommended we do a 3-month and then do a 12-month, rather than doing it. Effectively, what happened was we did a 15-month budget. Because what we did is we took the 12-month numbers, tacked on 3 months more, which effectively made that on its own a 15-month budget. So post December 1st of this year, we have 6 months to get this audit done.
So if I hear what you're saying, that's not going to cause 2 audits for the original fiscal year and then a second for the extension of the fiscal year. They'll just do 1 audit for 15 months.
Correct. Okay. So back to the agenda item of the state's attorney and what the legislative committee recommended. I had a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Cost?
Cost.
Well, first of all, cost will be what the cost will be. It's legally required. We're obligated to do it. It'll cost, if Benford Brown is willing to do it, we ask them first, it'll be at that cost. Also, I think, just to clarify, I think the legislative committee decided that since the existence of a vacancy triggered the statute, the audit would cover the time frame of the officer who left, thus creating the vacancy at the time of their service. If I remember our discussion correctly, I think that was right.
Yeah, it should be 2 years just for that office. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 15 is discussion and vote to ask state's attorney to review and revise concerning forensic audit of sheriff's office payroll upon recommendation of the legislative committee.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Jeremy makes the motion. Is there a second? Heath makes a second.
I'm right in front of you, Bobby.
Any discussion?
Can you provide some premise or scope of what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Members of the committee?
Yeah, we had a forensic audit done on about a 5-year period of the sheriff's department's payroll. I think it was from 2015 to maybe halfway through 2020. And the forensic auditor found almost $750,000 worth of error just in the payroll, just in that one department, just in that time frame. And also, there were issues with the auditor obtaining records, kind of like what Bobby talked about with the audit we're currently waiting on. And so I know an important record was acquired via FOIA request, a log-in, log-out sheet. And then the auditor requested it, was told it was destroyed. And then I FOIA'd it and I got it. So how it was destroyed, if I got it later, I don't know. And I don't think there was ever any documentation provided that authorized the destruction of such a document. So if it was destroyed, we had a problem, we have a legal issue that needs looked into. If the auditor asked for it and it was not provided while it still existed, we have a legal issue that needs looked into. And upon discussing this matter with the state's attorney, he recommended that we turn the matter over to him for his investigation and his advice.
So this is a forensic audit on a forensic audit?
No, this is not conducting another audit, this is taking action to find the resolution in the audit we had done. Almost 2.5 years ago. It was completed a year and a half ago.
So I guess why would the state's attorney need our permission to take action on something that could be legal matters?
I'm not sure that he does, but I want to give it to him.
I think this also, above and beyond what you mentioned, Jeremy, gives movement on addressing the forensic audit as a whole. Because there's going to be issues with IMRF, Social Security, are those the only two?
Medicare, whatnot, maybe the union too.
But there's going to be issues if there were overpayments and underpayments and those funds are affected. We need to do what we need to do to make things right. If there were employees that were underpaid, they need to be made whole. If there were employees that overpaid, I don't know what that resolution is, but it needs to be brought to resolution. So in total, this just says we're going to deal with the forensic audit that taxpayers paid for instead of just letting it continue to sit and sit and sit.
Yeah.
Was it IMRF that's already asked for 3 years worth of corrections?
A minimum of 3-year correction.
Yeah. And I think these entities have, if they want to come after us for those audit findings, they have a decade to do so. Is that right? I think I remember doing that.
I'm not reading this agenda item as much as giving the state's attorney permission, but rather making a request to the state's attorney. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, review and advise concerning forensic audit
Right.
and payroll.
We're asking him to look at it, we're not giving him permission to.
So any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 16 is discussion and vote to cause a forensic audit to be conducted on the dive team and request Benford and Brown to conduct this audit pursuant to in part to 55 ILCS 563105 upon recommendation of the legislative committee.
So moved.
Jeremy makes the motion. Julie seconds the motion. Any discussion on a forensic audit on the dive team and Benford Brown to conduct it?
Are there qualifications that a firm has to have to be considered a forensic auditor?
Benford, if there are, Benford and Brown has those qualifications, because I know they presented for the forensic audit of the sheriff's department, and I know some, if not all, of the accountants within their office have governmental
MGAs.
accounting. Yeah.
They're masters in governmental accounting.
Masters in governmental accounting, so they are very qualified.
Yeah, back in spring or summer of 2020, there was actually a few auditors that came to a meeting and presented, and actually there were just two actual auditors. And both were qualified to handle it. The last one was done by Vandenberg up at Bethany, and Benford Brown was the other one that presented information back in 2020. Both, hands down, are qualified, and so the recommendations from the committee have been around.
They are, sort of, if you go to their website, it says forensic accounting.
Yeah.
So can you just explain to me, help me understand, maybe help the public understand, that if we had an entity that was deemed not to be a county entity, how are we then going for a forensic audit on an entity that was not deemed a county entity until later?
Well, hang on. I'll just nip this on quick. So in August 15th of 2010, there was a letter to the clerk, which at that time was Kathy Lance, and it was a request of a member of the county rescue squad dive team at the time, who requested the team as a part of the Shelby County government. If you want me to read it verbatim, I can do that. But there was a letter in 2010 that requested that all this is a part of county government.
So I guess to that point, then you're saying that they were a part of our county government, which would have made them insured?
So, are we going to go down this path?
Well, I'm asking clarifying questions, because I get asked a lot of questions, so this is the forum to ask clarifying questions.
So, if this provides that they were a part of, through this recognition of the clerk, did the board ever take action to formally form them? If that answer is no, then at the point of discovery, which was this spring, summer, whenever it was, their insurance coverage becomes questionable at best. So, there's the separation.
So then I guess their control by the county becomes questionable at best when it comes to auditing something that was questionable at best.
Well,
That one they're spending
2 months ago, we passed a resolution that formed the dive team.
With no activity since. Right? No activity since. Again, back to the point that...
Those dive team members then resigned.
Sure. Which there's nobody to audit. So, but to that point, we have other entities that we give money to. So would there be a forensic audit review by extension?
We have members that sit on those boards.
Correct. So that's what I mean. So you're saying that we could affect a forensic audit on the same entity?
No, not to my mind.
Then I guess, how genuine question, help me understand the difference.
Because this is a taxing, or not taxing body, but they operate under the county name.
So to Shelby County Extension.
That's a different entity.
I mean, we're definitely on a hamster wheel here. You understand that, right?
Martha?
I think the issue here is that when the dive team was operating, it was always under the assumption that they were properly established. Up until the time that this board was elected, took our seats, and a new 3-person committee was overseeing that, was when it was found out that there were no founding documents, even though some on the dive team knew back in 2020 and were told they needed to find those documents, and that work was not done at that point. Once it became known that they were not properly established, the work was being done to get them properly established. So they're levied for, they're spending county funds. The intent was for them to have been properly established moons ago.
Well, in this letter it says that the team is providing funding through the corporate levy, which is the board's levy, if you will. So they are directly under the discretion of the board. No different than the sheriff's levy or the sheriff's funding or the clerk's funding or the highway funding. Well, yes, somewhat. Treasurer's funding, SA funding, on down the line. Those are all corporate funded.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
even if the dive team was not properly established prior to just a few months ago, it was a de facto department of the county because there was an assumption there. And they had, therefore, a de facto department head. which triggers the statute cited for the audit.
So de facto statute uses the word de facto.
That came from a discussion I had with legal counsel.
Well, if you could provide the documentation that talks about de facto organizations, the liability, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Cody?
No, I have other things too. So I handed out paperwork before this started for everybody to see. There's actually from Beck and Chapman, they were part of the federal lawsuit for a part of dive equipment that was not correct. And on this, it states, the dive team commander at the time, may close the settlement agreement and mutual release of your attention and execution of Shelby County. So it says right then and there that they acted as a part of Shelby County. There is also parts in there where they paid for that, which come from the board of Shelby County General Claims that paid for this equipment. It's all in here through federal documents. It is noted that they are a part of Shelby County. There's
Could you repeat that one more
documentation.
time? They were a part of Shelby County?
Correct. And like we said, at the point of discovery, of which the formation papers, let's go back to the insurance part. If the formation isn't properly established for the board, then it is arguably fatal in an insurance coverage issue.
And even more importantly than that one, Bobby, is the potential lack of tort immunity that would protect each of those individual volunteers on a personal level. That's to me even more important, the loss of tort immunity, potential loss of tort immunity.
So, yeah, this needs to be gone through and squared away.
Can I get a copy of that for the county board record, whatever you passed out?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I might have the extra.
Well, it doesn't appear to be something that was shared with everybody.
You know what, I'll just make a copy and scan yours back to you if you don't mind, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, do you want it after the meeting or you want it now?
After. Thanks.
So any other questions or discussion?
Does it have to be a forensic audit? Or-
Well, an audit, yeah. That's what's being called for.
In legislative committee, we discussed the types of audit, and because of an accusation made in this courtroom, or at this
Boardroom.
boardroom, at, I believe, last month's meeting of Fed, we decided a forensic audit was required.
So the scope could include anybody that's gone into buildings since then, correct? Okay.
Clay has a question.
Carol?
Clay has a question.
Clay?
Yeah, I don't know where to include this. If we're going to be talking about the Shelby County Dive Team, when we're going to talk about who's owning all the equipment and how they left. But the thing is, we got people that could be in jeopardy if we don't have them. We need their services. So if Shelby County owns it, I was talking to a guy just the other day, and he said, why don't you just rent the equipment to them? We need this equipment in the hands of qualified people.
That's not related to this, germane to this.
I realize that, but we never get to that in here. So that's just something I want to know. Why, I mean, if they want to work for the city, I don't care.
Yeah, we could discuss that a little bit.
Okay, we'll get back to it.
I have a question though, about all this packet of stuff. Was this accumulated because of public safety, or why was this packet made up?
Just gathering information and.
This information,
Supporting documents.
Supporting documents.
for what? For this audit?
No, for everything that I said during the public safety meeting.
Well, I'm part of that committee, and did I get all this ahead of this meeting?
Yes.
I
think
got
so.
all this ahead of this
I
meeting?
think so, yes.
I think I might have got some of it, but I don't think I got all of it. Never mind.
So any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of forensic audit to be conducted on the DAG team, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Raise your hand for notes, please. Tim, Matt, Carol, and Teresa. Any others? Pledge. Item 17 is discussion and vote to approve the Shelby County Dive volunteer application with the PCS recommendation. Is there a motion? Cody makes the motion. Is there a second? Lori, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Raise your hand, please. Item 18 is discussion and vote to declare dive team F-150 with the VIN 1FT PW14514KB56941 and animal control 2012 Chevy pickup with a VIN number of 1GNCNK06CZ225377 as surplus at the recommendation of public safety. Is there a motion, please? Cody makes a motion. Is there a second? Second by Martha. Any discussion on this?
I have a comment.
Teresa?
You're going to take the animal control warden's vehicle that he's driving now and declare it surplus, correct? Has anybody asked the animal control warden if he would prefer to keep his old vehicle over what is being proposed as his new vehicle before you surplus it? Has anybody spoke to the animal control warden? Besides me, is there anybody in here that
I've spoken to him multiple times.
have you spoken to him recently about the vehicle?
Well, I appreciate that Brad might want to keep the old vehicle, but it's a county department, and we're trying to get a new updated vehicle in there.
I understand that, but have you asked him if he'd prefer to keep his old one over the one that you're proposing to buy him as a new one?
No, I have not specifically asked him that question. But in reference, when I get new material at work, my boss doesn't ask me if I would prefer to keep the old or get the new.
So, Cody?
He was also asked to attend that meeting that we talked about too, so he had a chance to come and talk, to the committee.
And he's been asking for a truck for 2 years.
Yes.
So it's not anything new that he wants a different truck.
He wants a specific truck.
Yeah, and, the board has to act in administrative feature, correct? There is no administrator for the department. So the board has to act in administrative feature. So, we have to do what is best and recommended by the committee.
Has anybody on the board been in animal control to know what's best? So I would say you should ask him.
The only thing different about this truck and the one he has now is it's two-wheel drive, not four-wheel. It also has the same weight capacity as that truck. It has more horsepower than that truck, and it has probably twice the fuel mileage.
We're discussing a topic we haven't brought up yet.
Right. that was brought up that
But we haven't moved on to
discussion.
item.
No, I just asked
Okay.
if I talked to him.
So, nonetheless, there is a motion to declare something surplus. Now, whether it is sold today or next week or 2 months from now, that is neither here nor there. We're declaring it surplus. That is what the motion is. So is there any discussion on the motion to declare surplus? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Raise your hands, please. Tim, Tad, Carol, Teresa, or noes? Motion carries. Item 19, discussion and vote to accept the state bid from Morrow Brothers for 2023 F-150 4x2 regular cab pickup as animal control truck replacement with bid of $38,125. Is there a motion? Cody makes the motion. Is there a second? Mark seconds the motion. Any discussion? We've had discussion there, points. Any other discussion?
Well, we had discussion when the points out of order. So specs based on what we know was bid out some time ago versus what's here are not the same, even though the price is very much the same. And the price confirmed with the one locally was confirmed yesterday, to be $39,300. So, apples to apples comparison, it's certainly a much better vehicle. That vehicle today is worth $50,230. The dealership would still be willing to honor the $39,300 price. So it's been mentioned that the bids weren't done properly. So with the bid in place, can somebody please tell me what's wrong with the bid that was put in the paper on March 1st of 2021?
It was never delivered on. Julie, go ahead.
Were you able to obtain the specs from that, what was put in the paper? Because I asked Brad to see the specs.
This is the bid.
No. That says, please see animal control for the specs. Bid specs.
No. I mean, I've got stuff that was
When I
provided.
asked
Stand by, please. Hold on.
I'm answering your question. When I asked for the bid specs, I was given a quote from Lucius Wilson. There were no bid specs ever developed.
The specs were listed as a 3/4 ton crew cab with full-size bed and 4-wheel drive.
So when
And
you
the bid.
see the animal control wording, there were no specs. No specs were available when you were asked to see the animal control, or talk to animal control.
So that voids a bid.
It was improperly bid.
But when I've got the statute here that talks about that, it doesn't say that. Because it has to have certain specs. So can you point me to the statute, since we use statutes a lot?
I'm sure, I'll get it to you, I don't have it in front of me right now. But there is, we know that there's a bidding process.
Sure, and I've got it. So I'm just curious of which part of it says that there's got to be certain specs. And then no bids were received. And after a conversation the chairman and I had several months ago, and I reached for legal opinion and didn't get anything back yet, that what is the process when you don't receive bids back? I generally don't know the answer, and I really can't get anybody to answer the question. So what if you don't receive bids? I can't imagine that a department or an agency has to sit forever, right, if they need something. So in absence of bids, what's the process?
Take action.
Bobby,
Chairman.
what was received, I think you said March 21, is that right?
March of 2021.
Was that a quote, or was that a bid?
This is a bid from the paper.
Yeah, no, I'm asking, was a bid received, or was the county given a quote?
So my understanding is subsequent to no bids received, a quote was given, which sounds like what you're saying is proceed with reasonable quotes, right?
Laura? Yes, sir.
Well, I think depending on the minutes in the meetings of those times of the animal control committee don't reflect the proper steps being taken throughout the process. If you continued reading the ad that was placed, it gives some qualifications, but then says see animal control for details, specifications, whatever. Those were not provided, they were never written up, they never went through the animal control committee. So the warden went and got a bid, an estimate for a specific kind. That can't be used, and that was used and presented to the committee for several months as a bid out process. When we found out that it wasn't properly processed, and the meeting minutes reflect that. It doesn't call for a vote. There are several things that she didn't follow the proper process. So then we took steps to rescind that action as a committee, and it came before the board. Now we're trying to move forward in the proper steps.
So to that point, though, I mean, we're trying to move forward, and that's fine, but there's not a lot of consultation with the Animal Control Board, right? So we heard from Mr. Tappendorf, there was an awful lot of consultation with him to allow him to find equipment, not only that works for him, but also with his employees, which I think is very important to do, right? He touted the great level of cooperation. What I'm not seeing is the same level of cooperation within this department here. And, you know, again, to the point is that this guy's been doing this job for more than a decade. I would like to trust that he knows what it is he needs. I know questions have been raised about why does he need a crew cab? He's made that very clear, because that's where he gets to put his equipment that keeps him from possibly getting bit or attacked before he gets out of the truck with a dangerous animal. He's made that very clear. He's made it clear to the topper that's been discussed that it has lights and other much easier to open compartments to prevent him from risk, right? So that's why he has requested certain things. And again, a man that's done the job for, you know, well over a decade, I trust that he knows, boots on the ground, the situation he's facing much more than anybody else in this room. And so I do think that he gets a vote in this discussion to at least provide an explanation as to what it is that's important to him. Now, just because we all have a list of wants doesn't mean we get them, and I get that, but I don't see a lot of attempt at compromise, or at least the same level of respect given to the highway department to Mr. Hudson. And so, you know, we've cooperated for record scanning, right? We've worked with a lot of departments, but there seems to be a real drive not to help in this particular department here. So, I just think that he deserves a little bit more respect in this equipment that's going to long surpass and live past anybody in this room as far as their board seats here, right? That equipment's going to go on, you know, past his tenure and past all of ours.
I still reached out to him to that meeting, and he did not come and show up, and he didn't email me or try to contact me about any other problem.
He's on vacation.
So he must have no issues then.
He's on vacation. He's also saying he's going to keep that up and dealing with the
Point of order, also with that, it is a cost savings to the taxpayer because, like you said, the $39,000 is for the truck plus another $24,000. So you're looking at, what, 60-something thousand because it's a cabin chassis?
I don't know if that math works, but.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Hang on, I had Cody, then I had Lori second, then I had two hands over here. Lori, you got something?
There is a distinction between the highway department highway engineer, who was appointed under that title and capacity in statute. When you look at animal control statute, it's clear that the animal control warden ought not be making administrative decisions. He has admitted this repeatedly to the committee, because we do communicate. He has come to several meetings. We've had these conversations. He's acting in an administrative role outside of his qualifications, maybe, I don't know what his qualifications are to be the administrator. If he's supposed to be doing that as a union employee, I find it contradictory that a department head can be in the union. That presents an issue for the county and for him. It also presents an issue that he's acting outside of what the statutes require of him as a warden. If he's a warden, he's a warden. If he's the administrator, then he would have different roles and responsibilities. This is something that we've been trying to work through as a committee, and this is where we've come to that if he is specifically the warden, we're trying to help him as he has asked for us to help multiple times to get a new truck and to have some assistance in the facility and in the program. been happening. It has. But it has been. We've all communicated with him. Not today, but we have repeatedly communicated with him to help answer the questions that he's had. Can I get some help? Can we get a new truck? How do we process this? For 11 months now. And we're finally getting something to the board that we can take some action on and move with progress.
So to your point of structural problem, if he's on vacation, who's taking care of
There's a
business?
part-time employee.
Okay. I had some hands over here. Don, Teresa.
To speak for what Tad had to say about giving the man the respect that he deserves, he's done the job for over 12 years. He ought to know what he needs, and the comment needs and wants are two different things. But I went to the budget meeting the other day and sat there and listened to the highway department and the sheriff's department, and we talked about budgets and vehicles and equipment and stuff like that. And ARPA money was being discussed to fund those departments with their needs that they need for their equipment and their vehicles and stuff. I don't understand why the person that does the job and has asked for specific things and has been disregarded as what he thinks he needs and knows he needs because he's done the job for 12 years. But if he does not have enough money in his budget, if that's the problem here, why can't ARPA funds kick in and help him buy what he needs to do his job? No answers?
No, you're looking at me, so, Tim.
Well, we all know that the right tool makes all the difference whenever you go to do the job. And what you're doing right now is you're giving the guy a screwdriver to drive a nail. He showed you what the right tool was as far as the truck. And instead, you went out and got his truck, but it's not the truck. He needs to do his job. So, is that making everything better, or is this causing problems?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry, go ahead. So, let's just look at some face value things. A 3/4 ton truck, anything above a half ton, is mainly for carrying capacity. Now, I've yet to see what large animals would be hauled by animal control. If there's large animals to be moved or handled, which is outside the scope of the intergovernmental agreements, if I remember correctly, it's only dogs and cats in the intergovernmental agreements that are going to handle. So, if we're not dealing with large animals, then why do we need to have a truck? And if we're only on call from 8 to 3, then why do we need, excessive lights and a lot of equipment? Because we're working in the daytime. And if it's just the warden, then a regular cab truck houses all the equipment he needs, or a compartment in the back.
He's not on call just from 8 to 3.
Yeah.
That's what the IGAs say.
Exactly what the IGAs say.
Yeah, works well outside of that.
So either we fix a lot of legislative measures, or we get what's prescribed. Carol.
I know another reason that he needs an extended cab. It isn't just one animal that he goes after. He may be called out in the country when there's snow and there's 30 cats out there. It's freezing. The homeowners don't take care of the cats. He's responsible to get all of those cats into the vehicle. If it's freezing and he puts them in a freezing vehicle, he might as well leave them there to die. He can put them in the back seat of the vehicle.
You're gonna put 30 cats in the back seat of a truck?
Oh, for example, come on.
This,
You know what you mean.
and it has happened. He has put animals in the back seat of his truck to keep them warm, okay? Instead of in the
Carol, sorry, you're being spoke over. You have the floor.
I know that's happened. And I know he's been stuck in the snow, you know. Animals don't get rescued only in nice weather. They get rescued in the snow, in the rain, in the sleet, anything. That's why he needs a heavier truck. And it isn't just one animal at a time. And he gets coons and possums and I'm sure what.
Maybe, the IG doesn't speak to that, so.
But I just know that this is safe for him. You know, there was another vehicle talked about getting for him. Nobody asked him about the vehicle. It was a van. And he said it wasn't safe for him. He's a big guy. You can't open up that van door and step up in the van and put the animals in the cages. What if they get out? He's also driving in that vehicle. It's not safe for him. We ended up not getting that vehicle, but that was something that was brought up to get for him. He wasn't even asked about it. So I think he needs a vehicle that suits him, suits this department, not what suits board members.
So I guess in light of his concerns about union employee making decisions that affect his department, and that we are going to pursue hiring a department head, I make a motion to table this until we have an administrator in place to let them make the decisions.
Okay, so item 19, there's a motion on the floor of the table,
I'll second it.
seconded by Teresa.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, what's the vote tally to table requires?
2/3? Or the
Request
majority?
a roll call on this item.
I think it's just majority.
I can't answer the question, that's why I asked it.
Anybody have anything other than majority?
What did you say? What did you just say?
So he asked what the vote requirement is to
Oh,
table.
okay. Yeah, I know.
And I do believe it's just a simple majority. And he also asked for roll call. So, all in favor on roll call, please.
But can we have a discussion? We have a motion and a second.
Yeah,
No discussion on
voting
the
the table is not a discussion. You vote the table or you don't.
Fair enough.
Clark Amling,
No.
Mark Bennett,
No.
Teresa Bang,
Okay, if I vote yes, I want to table it, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Cody Brand,
No.
Tim Brown,
No.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
No.
Martha Fernhaber,
No.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
No.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Heath McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
No.
Bobby Orman,
No.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Sheff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
No.
Motion table fails, 11 nays, 8 yes.
Okay, so motion table fails. So without further discussion,
I have something to say.
go play.
My job's not the same as his. I drive a truck. I have a single cab. I deliver gas. And especially in the wintertime, I've got lots of equipment that goes in my cab. And it gets kind of crowded in there, just with me and my equipment. Now, and I deal with dogs, you know. I don't have too many mean ones, that occasionally I do. But when I think about how much equipment he must have, and he needs to get access to, it's kind of like having a minivan. It's got stuff right behind him. You know, I can just imagine how much equipment he's got. And that's why I think he probably should have a crew cab, if that's what he requests.
Any other discussion? Teresa?
The topper that's on his truck that is being proposed to put on the new truck, it's been on 3 trucks already, and this will be the 4th truck. it leaks, and I think he's told the committee that it leaks and the equipment that's inside it.
No, I hadn't heard that it leaked. I'm not
It-
disagreeing with you, I'm
it
just saying I
leaks.
hadn't heard that.
Yes, and the equipment that he keeps in there, it leaks and stuff. So that's another issue, that if somebody would talk to the person who does the job, they would be told these things.
Call the vote.
I've had to call the vote. So all in favor, roll call, please.
I do have one more comment.
Call the vote.
Call the vote.
I called the vote.
Bobby, could you clarify what we're voting on?
This is the vote to accept the bid, the state bid from Mara Brothers for the half-ton truck for animal control, to replace, as a replacement with the bid of $38,125.
Clark Ganley,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
No.
Cody Brand,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
No.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
No.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Nope.
Keith McCormick,
No.
Tim Morse,
No.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff,
No.
Don Tate,
No.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 11 ayes, 8 nays.
Item 19 carries. Item 20, discussion and vote to replace Dive Team F-150 truck with Animal Control 2012 truck. So the VIN numbers are listed in the agenda. Is there a motion to replace the Dive Team F-150 with the Animal Control truck? Is there a motion? Motion by Cody, seconded by Sonny. Discussion? Teresa?
What diet team are we talking about?
The Dive Team F-150.
Who are we gonna give it to?
Oh, the one you illegally transferred. That's what
Mr. Chairman, would you please issue a warning to the room?
Pardon me, I didn't hear what you said, Jeremy.
I asked.
So it'd be greatly appreciated if you didn't talk over members while they're trying to speak and ask questions. So if the gallery, please be quiet. So, any discussion of the replacement and revolvement here?
Was the original truck the ward uses now purchased with animal control fund money?
I assume so.
My understanding is animal control funds assets have to go back to animal control funds.
If it was restricted funds, it goes back to the general fund. If it's sold from one entity to another, which is prospectively what happens here, it goes back to general fund.
But, so then, the dive team assets then will reimburse the animal control fund for the value of the vehicle? You're taking something that was purchased from a fund that has specific guidelines on how those funds are to be used.
I'm going to venture guess it's budgeted. If there's
I know
a
that doesn't make, the animal control fund has specific uses and restrictions.
animal control fee fund would.
Animal control fund, which is derived from fees.
So animal control still carries a corporate levy, which is out of the general fund.
It may be purchased out of the animal control fund. Then when they purchase it,
That's what I'm asking for, is if it was purchased from the animal control fund, that asset belongs to that fund.
no, it belongs to the county.
It's a county vehicle.
It's a county vehicle. It's just a labeling. Is it going to be under the control of the animal control or it? Would somebody from the committee please speak to this?
I think this was brought up didn't we discuss this at the meeting?
Yeah.
And was decided, I don't know, maybe we do need a legal opinion, but it was decided because it was remaining within the county, that it wasn't going to be a transfer of funds.
No, it will be just a transfer of the vehicle, because the title's already.
Yeah, the county still owns the vehicle, but I mean, I understand what Pat's saying, that it was purchased out of a specific fund. Yeah, we don't know that, but if it was purchased out of a, so when the transfer happens from interdepartments,
It's not a transfer, it's just a label on the side of the door, literally,
okay.
in literal terms.
But if we were to sell it outright, then that money would have to go back to animal control if it was purchased out of those funds.
If it was sold, like if there was a sealed bid, even though it was paid for by, say it was paid for by restricted funds, it doesn't go back into that restricted fund. It goes back to the general fund.
That's not what the Animal Control Act states, though, for the Animal Control Fund. It says if you sell something, it goes back into the Animal Control Fund for the Animal Control Fund purpose.
What's being sold?
Where'd it say that?
It's still an asset that belongs to that fund. Again, I'm hearing people, especially from that committee, asking more questions about something they can't even clarify. So something like this should be getting legal counsel on. We shouldn't be bringing this here without some sort of legal opinion. That's why we're here for 5 hours a night, because we're not organized enough to get this stuff done.
We might be here for 5 hours, because questions keep getting asked, and should have been asked at different times. Put me in order. Thank you.
So, was there a motion and a second? Cody, did you have a motion?
Cody moves on the second.
So I thought. Do you want to pull the motion? Do you want to take it back to committee? Do you want to act on it?
Act on it.
Call vote.
All in favor of item 20, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Tim, Tag, Carol, Clark, Annette, Don, Heath, Clay.
Tim, were you,
Yep, correct.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 nays.
8 nays.
8 nays, motion carries. Item 21. Discussion and vote to rescind ordinance 2014-01-0 for animal control at recommendation of the PCS. Is there a motion?
What is the PSC?
Public Safety Committee. Cody made the motion, is there a second? Julie seconds the motion. Any discussion on the rescission of the ordinance?
What are we rescinding and why?
Lori?
It was sent out in the read-ahead material. There is a 2014 ordinance that has various definitions that they're very vague, and then they're not actually used in the ordinance. Different terms are used. And to the point you just made, the fee structure is different from what an accompanying 1984 ordinance requires.
Would you give a quick description of what
It's
the ordinance is? What is the ordinance? For everybody to know.
It's the 2014 Animal Control Act that Shelby County passed in 2014.
2014 Animal Control Ordinance.
Animal Control Ordinance of Shelby County, Chapter 1, General Provisions 14-01-0.
So is there a replacement ordinance to go in its place?
It does not have a repealer ordinance, which means the 84 ordinance also applies, and they don't always line up. So the request is to remove the 2014 ordinance, which muddies everything, and just go back to the 84 ordinance with slight changes.
So we'll go back to the 84 ordinance.
Which lines up with state statute more clearly.
Just to dovetail what she's saying, the ordinances prior to 84 had an automatic rescission in them. So anything prior, if a new ordinance was passed, every ordinance before it was dead. The 2014 does not have that. So we are currently under a 2014 Ordinance Act and the 1984 Ordinance Act, and they do not align. The 1984 Ordinance Act that this board passed is more in line with state statute, and with a few changes, it is a better act than the 2014 one, which is why we're trying to rescind the 2014 one. That will automatically fall us back on the 1984 one, and then there's some language that needs cleaned up in the 84 one, and then that's a good ordinance.
2023 ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion carries on item 21. Item 22, discussion and vote to accept proposed amendments to ordinance 84-1, animal control to strike specific wrong wording in section 2 and 3. Is there a motion on item 22? Heath makes the motion. Lori seconds it. Any discussion? I think we kind of covered this. Okay. We covered this in the last agenda item. Is there any other questions or comments?
I had one thing real quick, Bobby.
Yes, sir.
If I can find it here. No, that's not the right one. Stand by.
Yeah,
Lori?
if he's gonna be a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
There were fees and structures attached to the 2014. Since we have been seated as a board in December 22, we actually updated those, so the fee structure that we implemented December, January would stand. So the fee structure attached to the 2014 ordinance, it wouldn't matter. So the fees are still intact and.
It's a fee structure attached to the 85 ordinance. Correct? 84, 84.
Whichever one. I believe it was the 14.
Well, we just rescinded the 14. So we're going back to 85.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was the fee structure attached to the 14. If that's rescinded, we already have an updated fee structure that was either December 22 or January 23 that this board voted on.
Okay.
So that would still be in place, so we would not need to readjust or revisit the fees for animal control. If that helps.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I had was the third line of the heading of this 84-1 ordinance says draft only, not subject to FOIA. Do we need to take that out because it's no longer a draft?
Oh, that was as I sent it out. As read-ahead material.
Oh,
So it was added as
It was
read.
gotcha.
It was as
Once
read-ahead.
it's established, it'll be removed.
Understood.
I will remove that and send it to the clerk. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Item 22, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 23, discussion and vote to accept animal control administrator, non-vet administrator as a vet job description at the recommendation of PCS. So, is there a motion? Lori makes a motion. Cody seconds the motion. Sorry, Julie again. Any discussion on item 23? Pat?
Kind of skipped ahead because we bypassed the budget piece, but in review of the budget, you may have to make a modification because the math didn't add up for what we have as far as vet currently in this position, unless it was being reallocated somewhere. I just didn't do the math.
I vaguely remember the conversation. Basically, it's administrator role.
We asked for $13,000, 25 hours, or I'm sorry, $25 an hour 10 hours a week.
which is item 24. So it should be in the proposed budget.
Yeah, should be, but it was in there 2 months ago.
That math I understood. The 2,400 we currently pay, I did not see.
That is taking that role, that 2,400 we currently pay, to 13,000, correct? Yeah.
But we have a vet. I guess this is a non-vet position. I'm not trying to understand we don't have so we're losing the vet and we'll only have a non-vet.
We have to have a vet.
We have to have it.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Lauren?
We are also paying, I guess, per service. So when an animal needs services, it's taken to a facility and a vet is charging us fee. So we're paying per service along with $200 a month for a vet to order medications, but not actually do the administrative or the deputy administrator's role, which has been part of the complication of actually running the office. It's trying to clean all that up.
None of that's being argued. What I'm saying is I don't see a $2,400 budget item. 13,000 adds up for $250 a week. That part I get.
And it's labeled as, what's it labeled as?
Administrative. Again, that part I don't have any question over. It's funding of that part when we get to it.
It's actually office holder in the animal control budget, and it is budgeted for $13,000. In 2022 it was 2,400, in 2023 it was 2,400, in 2024 it will be 13,000.
So that's awesome.
Yes, that is where the current vet was budgeted under, was the office holder.
Okay, so Lori, let me up on something. We can have a non-vet administrator as long as we have a vet that we use
As a debt.
as needed.
For
And that-
medical care.
And that is what we're doing now, is we have a vet that we're going to as needed for those animals. So,
Well, we have several vets. We have.
okay, but we're going to a vet because the vet has to administer and give the medications and the whatnot. So if we have a non-vet administrator, that is the department head, and we're already paying for services, so that part never goes away.
It should still be in the budget. I don't know what that line item is. Because
No, I'm not sure what the line item is.
Because I don't know exactly how Fred runs those receipts. I don't have another place to use.
So for clarity, we hire this administrator as a non-vet. Got it? But the deputy then has to be a vet. So we are moving our vet to a deputy position.
Or the funds are there, but because it would be still budgeted in the whole.
But what I'm saying is we're trying to clean up the department, the discrepancies. So we have the administrator, but we need a deputy that's a vet to stay in line with the regulations. But I don't see that here.
Yeah, we do.
I'm nodding my head, and these committee members.
That's
are-
correct.
That is correct.
Okay. I have to go over here.
Talking with the state's attorney, he also said that the deputy administrator, the vet could be contracted out. So we could put a bid out for that, and then they would become the deputy administrator. And then they would be the ones to take care of the animals. But we haven't talked about it, so.
Lori.
Looking at how it's being run currently and over the past several years, to what statute is requiring and ordinances, that's been the complication for several months. We have not yet, as a committee, approved a deputy administrator's or warden's job those things still have to be decided, but we really do need to get an administrator in there with these things in place so that they know coming into it, this is their goal, to clean it up. So this is the first step of probably several.
Just for a point of clarity, we hire the administrator, then the committee becomes more hands-off. Because the administrator then hires the deputy and the board. Right?
Ideally,
Yes.
Well, it's not ideally, that's what it says.
no, I mean, that's what the plan is.
That has not been,
Happen.
that has not been past practice, but yes, that's what the state statute says, and that's what we're aiming for.
Full vote.
Call the vote's been made. Item 23 is accept a non-vet administrator as vet. Job description is recommended by the PCS committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 24 is discussion and vote to approve animal control administrator hours and pay at $25 an hour at 10 hours a week as the 24 budget allows. Is there a motion? Lori makes the motion, Julie seconds the motion. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call please.
Clark Hamlin,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Abstain.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Heath McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Laura Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Item 25 is discussion and vote to approve custom farming for the 24 crop year. Carol, would you like to take the floor? I assume that came out of the farm committee meeting?
Well, we didn't actually make a motion on it, but we talked about it. And decided to put it on, I guess I decided to put it on the agenda. But it's time to decide and approve custom farming for next year so the farmer can start working on what he needs to work on. And of course, then the next item is to have advertise for sealed bids. So I would just entertain a motion to custom farm for the 2024.
So you're making a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Teresa makes a second. Is there any discussion? All open discussion with, here in the last 60 to 90 days, I submitted forms to the Board of Appeals as well as Department of Revenue with this exact practice on it. The Department of Revenue come back and says that the tract is not exempt from taxes. So the taxes are still an issue. So no matter what we do, if we lease to a public entity, lease to a farmer, it's unconstitutional, and it doesn't pay the taxes. If we custom farm, we're still not paying the taxes. So, something besides this, the board has had issues with paying taxes in the past. So the lack of exemption still raises the problem. So I'll open the floor to anybody else.
I'm just going to say, I think the lack of the tax exemption states to us that we still do not have a public purpose for the use of the ground.
Right.
But we're able to custom farm.
No. I mean, you could, but it doesn't take away the tax problem. I had Mark and then Sonny and Jeremy, but Mark, go ahead.
Okay. This is on the agenda according to, it didn't come from the farm committee. Why did it not come from the farm committee, I would like to ask? If I'm not mistaken, it was presented to the farm committee for to ask for a motion, and what I understand, no one made the motion, including yourself.
Exactly.
So you didn't even ask her.
I was waiting
I'm
for.
not done. Okay?
Mr. Mayhall can do that, but Mr. Bennett cannot? Mr. Mayhall stifled someone from speaking earlier. Mr. Bennett did the same thing.
Bennett, you have the floor.
I've been through this in the previous 3 years, where questions were asked in farm committee, which I was in as well myself, and people didn't like the results, so outside of committee, people bring it to the board anyway. Why do we have committees? The committee did not decide to bring it before the board, an individual did. You have asked, and other members have asked, that we work together. I don't see this as working together. This is the same thing I have dealt with, and we got criticized back then. I don't see anything different here. There's been a lot of issues that have been brought forward, and as the latest one that Bobby presented, that it doesn't meet public purpose according to the Constitution. We took an oath on this board to follow the Constitution. Why did we bother to send in the required paperwork to the authorities and it come back, but it does not qualify for an exemption? You realize this is a business because we're making money. So,
The proposed idea is a business.
I'm sorry, sir?
The proposed idea is a business.
The proposed idea. We went with the idea of custom farming in the past, and we did. And since then, it has been written to make sure that we still qualify, if that qualifies for public purpose. And it wasn't. We had a state's attorney that actually period, that did not tell us the truth in committees. I have several pieces of paper that said, oh, this is public purpose. And now it's a public record that was sent to several board members of the past boards that she knew it then, but still push it through. Who's making the rules? Whoever we want to hear from our county, or do we follow the law? At that time, we weren't following the law. There is no public purpose because it's not exempt.
The law says no special
Okay.
purpose.
I will finish on one more thing. The new statute that was passed in Springfield. There are a lot of statutes that are passed, but it doesn't necessarily mean they can go into effective law. But the one that was passed says that any new property acquired must be put into use for public purpose within 5 years. Now, if this is all right for us to do on existing, why is it that any new land purchased cannot be continued farming after 5 years? Because it must be built on or used for the public purpose. We're never going to have a public purpose for this, are we? Not the way it stands. I'm done.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Mr. Chairman, if the property were being used for a constitutional public purpose, a legitimate public purpose, it would have been ruled by the Department of Revenue as tax exempt.
Correct.
It was not ruled as tax exempt. The exemption was denied. We're not using it for a public purpose. We are failing to meet the constitutional requirements. There is also the consideration of state Supreme Court cases, Dunn versus the County of Rock Island, which was cited later in Yackley versus Johnson, which was cited later in an opinion to the most immediate now former state's attorney. Those cases are still valid. They still carry the full force and effect of law. And it says counties are not authorized to enter into private business. As you said, and as Mr. Bennett said, this proposal would be a private business. We are not permitted to enter into private business. There is no authorization in the law that allows for this. That's also constitutional. Article 7, Section 7 of the Constitution says units of government shall have only the powers granted to them by law and Constitution. There is no authority for us to invest in a farming operation. The Investment Act lists the investments. Yes.
I want to pause you right there, because we've been criticized on our county policy as far as being derived out of the treasurer's office, and that is correct, it is derived out of the treasurer's office. But that document is also directly derived from the statutes you're referring to. So just to point that out, that is a county policy directly from statute. Continue on.
Yes, the Investment Act lists the things we are legally allowed to invest in, and farming is not on the list. In fact, the general tenor of all the things that are listed on the Investment Act is that we are not permitted to invest taxpayer money in anything that bears any risk. We can invest in savings accounts, we can invest in CDs, we can invest in some money markets, but there are even restrictions on those, because some of them bear risk and some do not. We can only invest in ones that do not. So the entire general tenor is no risk of taxpayer money. Farming is a risk. Farming is a gamble. Everyone will tell you that. You're risking on input prices for next year, hoping they stay low. You're gambling on commodities prices for next year, hoping they go higher. You're gambling on the weather. Some people might argue that crop insurance mitigates that risk, and that's the purpose of insurance. But taking out crop insurance admits and acknowledges that we are taking the risk. That doesn't make it legal to take the risk with taxpayer money. We have law, Constitution, court case that are all screaming against this. And then on top of that, we have the tax issues, which I've explained a couple of different times. If this board enters into this private business, it will incur taxes. It will be charged taxes.
Actually, we're not tax exempt no matter what we do.
Right.
As of current,
We still don't have a public purpose.
because we don't have a public purpose, so being that we don't, if we've got a tax bill, then there's no public purpose, there's no use to the ground.
And if the board were ever to pay those taxes, it would result in taxation a second time for anyone who lives in the pertinent taxing districts, the districts in which the farm sits. And also, it would result in a tax in taxing districts where people don't have representation. We have Constitution, law, we have court case, and we have ethics problems. There are so many holes in this, it's unbelievable, and I don't think we should do it.
So with that said, any other further discussion? Tad?
We have people who have spent years, and even up to now a year, in positions to make decisions to try to seek out public purpose. But I don't see a whole lot of activities taking place. We've been presented with opportunities and options, but I don't see people going out to try and make those happen, right? Mr. Yanta has proposed options. Now, all of those probably don't fit, but there are probably elements to that could fit. We have Ms. Elder sitting here looking for funding opportunities for a county-based daycare. Is that an option, right? Instead of throwing the towel in on every time this comes up, we need to proactively find out if there are solutions for this to make it a public purpose. I don't think that that's happened, even those who have been here for years.
Yeah, so I just want to make a quick point. Ms. Elder's presentation early on in the agenda is about the third or fourth idea I've come across for probably a lawful use of the land. But I'm not going to speak too loudly to that because of the open criticism that we get for ideas of moving forward. So I'm not going to speak too loudly to that until I can hone in and iron out some details with those individual entities. Because I mean, if the Economic Development and I, in Economic Development Committee meeting, discussed leasing of the property, because it would be a lease with the inclusion of taxes that they would pay for. That's an option as long as their entity, whatever entity that they're operating under, can house that lease themselves. So there are options, and there are some ideas, but I assure the world is not speaking to it until I iron it out.
If you want to shift a burden, I am not opposed to criticism, because I'm pretty sure after today I'm going to catch a fair share anyway, so I'm okay with that. So if you don't want to take that burden, I'll do it. But we need to proactively seek these opportunities versus just sitting on them.
And I am. This would be like the fourth idea I had, and I pursued two. So I'm in the works of pursuing two. We'll see what shakes out. I'm still in some legal limbo on one of them, and I'm pretty certain the other one will work. Mark?
The biggest problem going forward, Tad, with the public, having the public use, when you tie the dollars to it, there's not going to be as many dollars coming to the county.
Well, we don't want to be rich anyway, we've said that, right? We don't want to go gain money, so it's fine. But if we can find public use, keep the land in work value.
Mark had the floor, please.
I'm sorry to hear you got to ramble on, Tad.
No more personal attacks, sir.
You've done your fair share of it tonight.
Really?
But, as I was going to say, we've had a lot of people come forward with ideas that would have been public purpose. Mr. Shelby and Dave Ogden came forward a couple years ago. But what keeps happening is everybody wants to talk gross dollars. They don't want to give anything up to make it a public purpose, because it's not going to come dollars to us. The public purpose kind of gives away that side of it. And nobody's willing to do that, and that's why it just falls on deaf ears. If you don't mind, Chairman, I would love for Mitch to speak for a minute if he has something he would like to add.
Mitch, do you have anything to add? You're kind of off the corner of my eye, so I didn't.
I put you on the spot, but if you don't have anything, it's fine.
I would agree. I mean, when you get attached to public purpose, the profit goes away for the most part. Unless you maybe can cash lease it to a public purpose entity, nonprofit organization of that sort. I mean, I think there's ideas floating on that table. I just don't think they're ready to be brought forward just yet. But I will say there's not a plan to not farm this ground. The public may say that and may think that, and I understand the narrative behind that and the thinking that because you guys don't know everything that's going on internally till we get these ideas worked out. But there's not a plan to not farm at this point. We just got to find the right plan.
Yeah, and I would like to make a point to that. It was actually one of my biggest critics made a comment that triggered an idea of mine, but it was in a constructive conversation on telephone, and that's when I picked up my phone, made a few phone calls, and it's still way up in the air. It's going to be a matter of a bit more time, but hopefully things work out. But if not, the model idea still works with other entities. So anyway, the idea is not to leave it idle. The idea is to use it for something, so we have to use it wisely and lawfully. So, Julie.
I just was going to ask the committee, was there any further communication with Mr. Yantis about the regenerative, I think it's called it regenerative farming?
I've talked to him one-on-one several times.
Is that a possibility?
But you go, you know, you get into another taxing body, and then you've got to produce a levy. That levy will, and I think Pat and I talked about that briefly, that levy is dead on arrival, most likely. People don't want more taxes to make it a park district anyway, at that level.
Okay, I never.
And that's the only, I mean, that's Mr. Yanis's idea, is to create that park district, have a board of trustees. Great idea, lots of money to take that, to fund that program.
And Bobby, also, I'm glad you said that, because when I was at one of the meetings, I had mentioned the farm as being a public purpose for maybe somehow with the daycare.
Well, what she was referring to was the actual kind of reincarnation of its original purpose, was to provide the people with a place to go. Now, that was the physical place they met. But in turn, if it's possible that the property was used by the entity off-site, using the funds to fund an off-site operation, like I said, there's a bunch of things we got to check out, but it's always an option. Like I said, that's the third or fourth idea I had.
Bobby?
Sir?
I know we are up against the clock, because, I mean, you know, farming's coming up. I mean, so we got to try to figure something out. I mean, so we're not just sitting on our hands, sell. That's not what we're here to. It's not, you know, even just like Mark said, I've always been solution oriented and trying to figure out a possibility for this farmland. Even before we was on the board, Dave and I came to the farm committee to promote, to bring an idea. We've done a lot of legwork before that introduction. And I get it. I mean, they was up against the clock too. They was up, the farm committee at that time, that would have been March, I believe. Dave and I, it just, and I understand that, so, but,
So item 25, discussion. Martha?
I just had a question that, to Mitch's point about a timeline for actually farming it. Is there a federal government program, and I can't think of the name of it, but when I was on city council,
CRP.
CRP. And is it an option to put it in that for a period of time until we?
Not this year.
I think you gotta go with, you gotta have an intergovernmental agreement with DNR, just a lot more red tape.
We did that.
I mean, it's an option to look at, investigate, but I don't know if that's
But we
the
couldn't
best
do
option.
it this year.
We have a bunch of side conversations going on over here. Can you stop, please? So, where are we at on the conversation? Mark got a question. Mitchell answered it. Any other comments from the gallery before I go to Clay? Okay, Clay.
I don't know what we're gonna do here just yet, but if the ground, what my family used to do, every once in a while, you put it in either clover or alfalfa, and you plow it under, and you can boost the ground up until you decide. We used to do that every 7 years, I think, and it really builds the ground up. And one thing I don't like is to see farm ground set and grow up in weeds. So if the crop wouldn't be taken off of it, but you plant it in alfalfa or clover, plow it under with an old board plow, and I know people freak out with that. You can't believe how much better your soil is after that.
I apologize, Clay. I was not rolling my eyes at you. I was looking at the ceiling,
No,
trying to do a calculation in my head about what that would cost us, and it's in the budget. It would be within the budget, I'm sure.
I've seen, we take poor soil, we re-rented, my grandpa did, and it was so poor, it wouldn't even hold together, it'd wash out real bad. We put it in alfalfa and we plowed that in, the next year it made a huge difference in the quality of that soil. But I just, one thing I don't like is if farm ground is supposed to be farmed, okay? And I have all kinds of ideas on this whole thing, but if it's gonna set, then we should put either alfalfa or clover and leave it there, plow it under, it contributes to the soil and it makes a huge difference in the quality of that soil. And not just let it grow up in weeds and have to mow it, you know, but Jeremy told about things, and so I'll just, I don't want to, you know, I know how this is a tradition for a lot of people, and but just, if this is good, if it's good for the county to farm ground, if it's good, then more would be better, right? So let's just pretend during World War II, the federal government or the state come out here and put a great big camp out there, you know, for people to go bomb shelters and different things like that for war. And okay, the war's over with, you know, the things kind of fall apart, and so then the state could say, hey, you know, we got this 5,000 acres, so let's just go ahead and farm it, you know. And that's money you won't have to pay. The taxpayers won't have to pay. We'll just let somebody farm it. I mean, if a little is good, then a lot would be better, right? So we could have a bunch of serfs farming, and then the federal government could just take over. You know, we could let serfs farm everything. You know, we'd be a bunch of serfs. The way it is, ground is there for people to produce. And it's there for people to prosper. And it's not for the government to make money. It's there for people to make a living. But I just don't like letting the ground sit there. I think it looks really bad. It should, if we own it, then we should be doing something with it. We shouldn't let it grow up in weeds. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and doing a heavy seed cover in the meantime is 100% within the budget, and it's a smart idea in the meantime. Cody?
Now, I'm gonna go to Ocala Valley because they have an ag program with animals. So if they planted alfalfa and clover, would that possibly fall under the public purpose of giving it to school districts to use for their programs?
Yeah, and what are you gonna do with the other 175 acres? I'm sorry, Cody, not to be a smart aleck, but there is a large amount of acreage out there, so we can supply most of central Illinois high school programs with hay off that farm.
I was gonna say, I don't see a bad deal with that.
No, I don't.
That's just my opinion.
But in order to, so if we did something with Ocala, and I understand what you're driving at, we have to be able to reasonably say that we're gonna do something with a whole bunch of others.
I know, I'm just saying that they have the program with animals. I don't know any other school district that does or whatever, but that would take the committee to check into it, yes, and find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've had a lot of discussion, Lori. Actually, I had Tim over here, he had his hand up.
The problem with the taxes is the fact that they're coming out of the general fund, is that right?
Correct.
So why don't we treat those taxes like they used to do the old harvest liens? Whenever you go in and pick your check up from the elevator, one check goes to the taxes, one check comes back to you.
Because it was a disbursement of a surplus property. So the realization of that surplus property has to be made whole. Lori?
I've not heard the alfalfa suggestion before. If that were tilled under, there would be no, would that fall under custom farming?
What he's saying is we seed it.
Because there's no.
We seed it to, no, we just seed it, okay? We seed it to a specific stream that we know is, here again, a judgment call on our part, because there's nothing in administrative rule or statute that says if you have grass-based fallow, you must do this, this, and this to maintain it. So anyway, we're going to make a judgment call that would be a proactive measure to protect the ground, physically protect it, as well as give a subsequent operator a pretty valiant chance of taking that out of what it's in and putting it into a cash crop.
I hear all that. I'm just saying the motion on the floor is to, through custom farming, if that is what is a good option, it wouldn't even fall under this
Yeah.
situation, correct?
26 and 27 as well. So once we get all this out on the table, we can roll that through these bills. So, bring me back to what you pointed.
So yeah, I would think it needs to go back to the committee, because if that's an option, what I was suggesting, it does not fall under custom farming, which you just said.
Well, no, we would still need somebody to
To
prep
hire
it,
somebody to,
and do some things. So,
just there would be no profit to have to deal with it.
Call the vote.
I have one quick question. Can I ask?
really,
Why does it work for you?
Carol, as the chairman of the farm committee, is it your recommendation that we can, I mean, for those of us who are trying to figure out how to vote and what to vote, that we can custom farm it, enter into a custom farm agreement legally?
That was my recommendation, but nobody else.
Okay.
I had to call the vote back here. And I had Julie.
Can I finish that? We did custom farm this year. It wasn't a problem.
Motion to table.
Oh,
Can you do
I
that?
call a vote.
he's got to call the vote.
I think I was talking.
Yeah, and I recognize the call to vote after Julie. So, item 25, discussion votes to approve custom farming for the 24 crop year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye. Nays, raise your hand.
Three-fourths vote, right?
It's 3/4 affirmative. Anybody have the statute in front of them? Is that 3/4 of voting members or 3/4 of the board?
Full board.
Full board.
Actually, Tennessee's one of the things,
Three-fourths to approve.
Yeah. So 10 hands raised on a 20-member board is less than 3/4 affirmative. Therefore, motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, point of clarity,
Okay.
raised hands were a no vote.
Raised hands were no votes.
Okay,
That's 10. 10 out of 22.
okay, understand.
It would take him 15.
well, 10 out of 21, since you don't have a full board right now.
No, it's still 22. It takes 17 votes.
So, item 25 fails. So, item 26,
Forget it.
27,
Forget it.
28. Committee reports. Cody.
So, we noticed last week in the Public Safety Committee meeting, and I need to talk to the legislative chairman, but the three titles that we had, one of them was, sorry, I mixed these up. One of them was a title from Raymond Community Fire Protection District that was signed over in 2020. That was never changed over. The 2004 F-150 was titled to Shelby County but had a different P.O. box. And the 2012 Chevrolet was titled to Shelby County but had a different P.O. box. So I will be talking with the legislative chairman about getting a policy that would send all the titles for Shelby County straight to one address or a P.O. box. I would assume that the holder of the titles, it should go to them, and every title go to them instead of being dispersed to wherever.
Yeah, so that brings me to a point that when we have our audit calls and our meetings of that nature, when we're talking about record keeping, our records are scattered all over the county. And it's causing problems with our audit. It's also causing problems with not only just the audit, but also this very problem right here is, well, if we need to find a record of ownership, where do you find it? Well, it's somebody's foot locker over in some building. It could be. So there's a large amount of problems that comes with decentralized information. Continue on, Cody.
That's just it. That was, there is a title issue within the county, and it needs to be rectified real quick. So I will be talking with the legislative chair about getting a policy set forth to alleviate that situation.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about the highway department. We hired Cameron Spesser as an engineering tech. We were down to 0 techs after we lost Reed Vest, hated to lose Reed, but we're happy that we got Cameron Spesser hired on as an engineering tech. And yes, he is the son of Alan Spesser. Also, at our May meeting, we had a bit of a hostile meeting. I believe it was Teresa didn't recommend, but she asked a question. She asked, have any of you committee members ever visited the highway department? And the answer was no, we had not. And we started visiting the highway department at that time, the 5 of us. Eventually we thought, let's do a cookout for these guys. And just last Friday, November 3rd, we paid for it out of our own pockets, but it went over really, really well. It's just good for the committee members and the workers out there to spend that time together and get to know each other. We decided we're going to do it again next year around the Labor Day holiday, and we're going to invite the whole board. And this will probably be on like the Thursday or the Friday of the week before the holiday, and we will do it at lunchtime like we did it this year. So that's all I got. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you have a majority of a quorum of the board show up, that's a meeting, and that violates OMA.
Okay.
So, right. So you would not want to, unless you're going to post the meeting as a meeting, you would not want to invite the whole board to a cookout.
But can't we just, well, the committee did the same thing. We said, guys, we can't talk about business. We can't talk about highway department.
You all took your OMA training.
Okay.
I would recommend that you refresh that so that you're not violating the Open Meetings Act. Even if it's innocently, you can't violate OMA, it's the law. So,
That's a very good point, but to that point, I would say, as long as no more than the majority of a quorum of your committee or the board discusses committee business or board business, that would be okay. That's policing yourself, so you are still inviting the risk, I agree, but
Not speaking to it. I want to look into it myself. But, any other committee reports? Hearing none, I'd like to go back to item 12. We definitely don't want to do that one. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed 24 budget so it can be made readily available for the next 15 days with the addition of 20,000 LATCF, addition of $20,000 to the highway fund and equipment line item.
so move for a second. I'll second your motion.
I actually talked with him about that, and in the 012 highway budget, he has one for he put $18,000 in there for computer equipment or something like that. I mean, we could reimburse that out of the general fund to use those LATC back. Now, he wanted to take that line item to 20,000, but he already put it in there in his expenditures under highway.
So it's in there.
County highway, I can't remember if it's 014 or 012, but it's there, and then I think it could just be a reimbursement from the general fund
Okay.
using the LATCF funds.
So the line item is there, it's just not the full 20, it's labeled as 18. So rather than making any changes, I'll pull my original motion, which was seconded by Janet, correct? I'm going to pull it. I'm going to reinstate a new motion to approve item 12 of the proposed budget recommended by the Budget Committee.
Second.
Seconded by Janet. Any discussion on the budget as proposed by the Budget Committee.
Can I just ask what took so long to get it here? Because we're gonna have to have a special meeting now, right?
Yes.
And they become very expensive at $900 plus per special meeting just to be here. So I guess what was the holdup and what lessons can we learn? This doesn't happen again next time.
So a lot of it was, here again, information disbursement from other departments, and then information changes as departments were getting closer to any sort of deadline. There was a draft budget. Let's see, this is the 1st of November. There was a draft budget the 1st of October, but it wasn't really ready to be presented anyway. So there was 5 or 6 changes that the Budget Committee made. So largely just getting it established and where we need it. Any other Budget Committee members speak to it?
Yeah, I asked that question in the meeting. I said, why are we always doing this at the 11th hour, the last minute? And one of the gentlemen from Bellwether said they like to get this done usually by October to start your December 1 fiscal year. So wouldn't need a special meeting, have about another month's time. But he also said that there would be constant changes. The numbers they get from departments up front change. And the earlier they comprise what is supposed to be the final draft, the more it will change as you get closer and closer. So I asked that question too, and I would like to see us get it done a little sooner, but at least his explanation was legitimate.
To answer your question.
Enough.
Mark, you have something?
The only thing that Jeremy pretty well nailed into it is they're trying to use the actual numbers that come in, and the closer you get to the deadline, the more they have those actual numbers, and get home getting closer and closer, and that's why, as he said, there's quite a few changes towards the end.
Cody?
Yeah, I would like to amend part of the budget. Line item 003-044-54600, capital outlay for the animal control. For the last 2 years, it was $55,000. We amended it for the 3-month. I would like to take it from $78,000 back down to $55,000, where it has been for the last 2 years.
Can you give me that line item again, please?
Yes. 003-044-54600.
So you're saying the 78,000 represents the 15-month budget?
No, that is put in the 24. It was 75,000 for the 3-month budget. We amended it for the 3-month budget back down to 55 because it was not talked about in committee. So we put it back down.
Didn't we discuss that in budget last week?
Yes, that is capital out. That was for the purchase of the trim kits.
I thought we did. No?
The 55,000.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the items that was supposed to be added.
I thought so too. Maybe not.
So Cody has it listed at what he says it is. So the refreshed budget went out Monday. After
We
the
just
meeting.
got one the 8th, actually, and I emailed it out.
Yeah, that was pulled up on the 8th. Yes.
There's a motion to amend recommendations, the recommended budget. There's a motion to amend the recommended budget. I get it spat out. From 78 to 55.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Jeremy seconds the motion. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Hearing none. All in favor say aye on the proposed amendment. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, the revised motion is to approve the proposed budget as recommended by the Budget Committee and as amended through the amendment.
What is the overall balance of the general fund now?
Do you think I have it done?
Is it in the black? Yeah. Just wanted to point that out.
So the budget is actually now with that amendment will actually be in the black. So it was level, now it'll be in the black. So any other further discussion on the proposed budget as amended?
No, discussion, maybe just a point. I mean, I had to take note of what Mr. Smith stated. As it relates to, the insurance cost increase, and I hadn't done the total math yet, but if I heard him correctly, he said somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 to 18% increase in payroll. And so, me and P-TEL, at some point at that pace, we're going to outspend our taxing ability. So I think that there needs to be some looking at where that's coming from.
That's why it was crucially important not to spend the ARPA funds in a exponential fashion, but in a defined fashion. Because if we spend those funds in a defined fashion, then it's something that relieves the debt or the burden on the general fund. But when you spend it in an exponential issue, things like payroll, it has lasting effects on all the retirements and all the insurances and all the, it's exponential. So I 100% agree with you, and this is going to be a problem that we're going to have to deal with moving forward. Hopefully, see, right now, the way things are proposed is that the ARPA funds is actually balancing our budget right now. So when that runs out, department heads need to be aware that funds will be shortened up significantly. So, Mark.
So my question, and I think it leads to the same thing, but I'm going to ask it because it might be in a different way, but looking at the 22 budget was 5-point-something million. 2023 was 7-point-something million. Now 2024 is 7-point-something million. In those last 2 years to get up to the 7 was the ARPA funds, and those are going to run out. So what we're saying is at some point we've got to get back down to that.
And we will.
5-point-something. No, I'm just asking. That's what you're saying, correct?
Right. What I'm saying is the 5 points somewhat, the $5 million budget is a real budget. The $7 million budget includes the ARPA funds. It's there, we can use it, and that's why it's budgeted as it is. But in about 25, in the 25 budget or 26 budget, we're probably looking at something in the mid-5s instead of 7s. So just so everybody is aware that this will go back eventually. Yeah, $7 million budget isn't something normal. And actually, prior to 2019, it was a $5.1 million budget, and prior to that, it was like a 4.7 and a 4.5. So it has stepped up pretty quick in the last 6 years, and really fast in the last 2 years. But anyway.
Can I ask Jessica a question? Do we have for 2024 the P-TEL percentage
It's,
that's
the
going to be allowed?
CPI is going to be 5%, but we have no idea what the assessed value is going to do yet,
Okay.
or what the multiplier will be, or if there will be one, if there'll be a factor or what. So,
Don't know yet. Okay, thanks.
Okay, questions, comments on the budget? And this is to approve it for public viewing prior to actual approval at the end of the month. So, Hearing no other, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So now we'll go to, we've been through committee reports, we've got chairman updates. Item 29, the only thing I really have to update on is, last night Julie and I were actually at a pretty informative meeting. It was hosted by the EDC, and correct, it was hosted by the EDC. And it was definitely a wake-up call. It was definitely I've been around long enough to say I knew it was here, but it's a wake-up call to the rest of the board. Our emergency planning is whack. No doubt about that. The good thing is, the great news is, we have an EMA director that is working tirelessly with his schedule to get us in compliance and get us up to code. And then we've got meetings with the regional planning commission, stuff like that, to get our emergency plans and all the books and everything put together. So in the event that something like what happened in Crawford County, that stretched from Salem, Illinois to Sullivan, Indiana, with that tornado last spring, if in the event that happens, hopefully we're not scrambling as bad as I think we might be in today's world. So, bad news is we have a lot of work to do. Good news is there's a lot of work being done. So, Martha.
I was just gonna say, Brenda and I text today, and she has agreed to send the slideshow from last night. She's got my county email address. She's gonna share the slideshow presentation. When I have that, I'll get it to Jessica to send to the full board.
I think it should be in your inbox.
Got it, okay. Thank you for sharing that.
So other than that, I don't have anything else to update you on. Item 30 is appointments. I have Ramiro Estrada to the ETSB for a one-year term. Entertain a motion. Mark made the motion, Samuel seconded the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries for Ramiro. Second is Brian McReynolds to the ETSB for public safety sector. So to clarify, Ramiro is public safety, and then Brian is public sector. There's differences.
So moved.
Jeremy makes a motion. Is there a second? Clay makes a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is Sandra Earp to Zoning Board of Appeals.
I got it.
Second.
Tim makes the motion. Lori seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is an announcement to the committees. We'll be adding Annette Martin to Public Safety and Lori and Martha to the Budget Committee. And then moving on to correspondences. Is there any other correspondences? I don't believe. 32 is old business. Is there anything in old business that we'd like to bring up?
I've got something on, maybe it should have been in committee reports, but Steve from the Health Department and I have been talking this week, and the construction has started. He sent pictures. I'll get them forwarded out to the whole board as soon as I figure out how to do that. And then send it to Jessica. They're on my phone. Well, anyway. And he said everything's on track, and the construction's going well so far.
Where's that building
Is that Hickory?
at? Is it that
It's
direction?
off of Hickory.
It's South Hickory, probably about.
Okay,
Yeah.
south, okay, yeah, southwest quarter. Okay. So you got pictures to send along?
Yeah.
Okay, any other committee reports or old business? Glad you want to pick that up and.
Yeah, I would. I mean, we have dive equipment. County's got it. We got a city dive team with no equipment. So why couldn't we rent, if they would sign an agreement to, intergovernmental agreement to help the whole county, so nobody be left out, why couldn't we rent the equipment to them?
It's a swell idea, I'm sure there's a, public safety's heard you loud and clear. So, committee members can pick it up and write something, or?
I don't want to cause trouble, I just, eventually it's going to start raining around here again, and we're going to have somebody get stranded. All this red tape isn't going to help that person get stranded. We all feel really bad if we don't do something. There's no sense of equipment. The equipment's useless if it's sitting there and nobody's using it, and especially qualified, capable people. And I know we're supposed to look out for the taxpayer. Well, we could have a taxpayer in high water situations sometime.
Any other old business? Hearing none, we move on to the approval of claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims? Don?
So moved.
Second by Mark. Any discussion on the claims?
The committee reviewed the claims, we found had no questions on any of the claims that we couldn't solve ourselves, so we voted to approve all claims submitted.
Any discussion, questions? Tad?
Yeah, I just think, there was some discussion about the medical bills, again, through the sheriff's department, right? We have to take care of the prisoners, and so we just had a discussion of what could be anticipated next year, possibly what his budget could look like for that, just based on what we've received here recently and what we've been told we can expect to receive. They're pretty hefty, and then possibly a review of the contractor that also provides us in-house services. So some of those things should be considered to be reviewed.
I assume that would be reviewed by the sheriff.
I honestly don't know where that would lie, whether it's public safety committee or where that lies. I'm not sure where the contract lies, or even if there's even additional contractors. I really don't know what that looks like, but we have a pretty hefty premium in payment for that service in addition to local medical care.
Any other comments about the claims? Hearing none, roll call please.
Clark Amling,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole, Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Heath McCormick, Tim Morse, Laura Nelson, Bobby Mormon,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt, John Tate,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Alrighty. Item 34, public body comment. As a reminder, there is, the rules, Chairman, remind me of the rules. There's
5 minutes,
5 minutes.
one time,
Max yield.
no yield,
5 minutes, no yield.
one time. You have the list?
I don't think anybody signed up. They had when I walked in.
No priority? I'll open the floor to public body comment. Public body comment? Madam over here.
Okay, I came here tonight to thank everybody for coming out, doing your job. And then I sat here tonight, it's like everybody is so argumentative. You guys have got to get along a little better. I have a question, and I know you can't answer it because it's during public comment, but the question is at the last meeting, Austin stood up and asked about a key, and he was accused of being a liar, which I thought y'all weren't supposed to speak. So when I ask questions, I can't get an answer. So was that unprofessional of this person? I'm not going to mention names, we all know, but I don't know, I don't like the anger. I like to come here, I like to see things done, he cares about the farm. Just, you guys have got to be more on the same page instead of separated. It's hard for us as taxpayers to sit here and see this. And the way they talk to the women, and this one, she did a beautiful presentation, and this one's worried about the dads. The whole thing is about feeding that child. It's not about the mom, it's not about the dad. Beautiful presentation. Thank you. Sorry, I get emotional.
Other public comment? Jake?
I'm Jay Cole. I believe I have a little bit different opinion on all this public purpose than some of these other people do here, because I've read the new law. We do not need a specific public purpose. It states exactly that. Doesn't make any difference what the law was last year or 10 years ago or what anything else said. So we can farm the county farm if we want to vote, to farm. You can't do anything about it. Kirk can't do anything about it. Jeremy can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. No one here can do anything about it because it's the law. If we want to vote to farm, no one will stop you. Take it to court and see it. No judge will go to stop you because this is the law right now. I don't know what you don't understand about this. What does anybody don't understand about it? What about this truck? I've been down here and I've looked at this truck. For $1,500 more, you can get a truck worth thousands of dollars more. You can get the one the guy needs. You can get four-wheel drive. You can get an extended cab. You can get what you need. Why don't you buy the guy what he needs? I don't get it. Did Sonny or did Cody go down and look at this truck and price the truck? No, I don't think they did. Did you price the truck? Of course you're not going to sell it because you don't have to. But I did. I've been there. I found that stupid. We're buying a truck we don't need, one for a few bucks more. We can buy one worth thousands of dollars more from a local dealer. The only reason it's there is because he ordered it, because he knew that's what Brad wanted, and he likes Brad, and he's kept that truck to see if it was possible Brad could get it. He's not making any money on that truck. But you don't care. You don't care if anybody's trying to help us. No one in here cares if anybody's trying to help us. This is all craziness. I mean, it's stupid. I got one more thing here. I got a report, bank accounts balance report from Erica at the end of July. In two banks, it was over $24 million. Over 20 million was drawing less than 1%. Is that managing our money? She says you can manage our money. She can manage our money. You say that. You're all a bunch of, I don't know what I want to call you. This is just stupidity because you're listening to that guy sitting over in that chair. And the guy standing up, he didn't care if we had a dive team. He doesn't care, neither one of them care about anyone or anything. They don't care about me. They don't have any friends here. These guys don't care about anything. They're trying to destroy Shelby County and no one's paying any attention. We don't have a dive team and you went in and took their equipment. Stupid. I mean, it's insane that this is going on. I know I should talk on a more normal voice, but I'm so mad I could scream. It's crazy. We can farm it if we want to farm it. If you don't want to farm it, okay. I'm about ready to give up and let you guys destroy Shelby County. If that's what you're determined to do, I guess that's up to you.
Public comment? Go ahead, Christian.
Thank you. I think I started coming back in January to these meetings, and almost a year, hard to believe it's coming. I listened to Jay Cole. I didn't know what to think when I first came here. Actually, I thought I was going to be upset more at the members in the audience for how they were treating the board. But then after being here for almost 10 months, no, I'm upset with how you're treating people. You treating people. I'm very glad to see some people stood up for for the truck and for different things that don't usually. Usually it's a group of 4 people that are battling for this county, and we see it. And when elections are coming in 2024, and we see it. And we need candidates. We need you to step up because Jay Cole's right. He's 82 years old. He has more life experience than probably anybody in this room. Anybody in this room. He's been around. He reads people. He knows people. And I think he's pretty right on. And we should respect people that have been around 82 years. That's a long time. Long time. He's seen a lot over those 82 years, I'm sure. And it says something when he says, I've never seen anything like this. Never. So we need to step up, people. I hope you're watching on the Watchdog side or on the YouTube channel. I prefer the YouTube channel for ShelbyCounty.gov. Please turn to ShelbyCounty.gov to watch the board meetings, and please run in 2024. We need you. Thank you.
Public body comment. Public body comment. Public body comment. Sorry, Tad, go ahead.
Yep, way different topic. So, I mean, I don't know in here who's a veteran, so we're going to switch topics a little bit. Hey, thank you for your service. 2 days ahead of Veterans Day. I guess it's the privilege we have here is to be able to sit here and bicker and argue and dislike or like or however that works out. So, I guess as you're walking through the streets the next couple of days, you know, shake a vet's hand for the ability to at least be here, be present, have that freedom to do that. So thank you. Small plug, tomorrow, Shelbyville at the school, breakfast for veterans and their spouse at 8:30. Program to follow with the school kids at 9:30. Give the guest speaker a break. He's going to do his best tomorrow. So, thank you.
Public body comment. Public body comment. Public body comment. Motion to adjourn. Lori, seconded by Cody. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
It's not my time. So I was going to have my contact tonight. Oh, my email address.
You can prove nothing wrong with this one either. You can't stop us from lying. What are you blowing about this crap? Did you read the law or did you read it? What do you hate us, John? Huh? You got some reason you don't like us? You got some reason you don't want to dive team? I think it's pretty obvious when you don't want to dive team, you don't like us. There isn't anyone here breaking the law. Who's guilty? Who's guilty? Who's guilty? Tell me who's guilty.
I want the dive team.
You tell me who's guilty. Who's guilty of breaking the law?
Well, they got the address.